Let's get puppy. Welcome to PEP 233. That's Planet Extra podcast. I am Chaz Licciardello, a host of Planet America on ABC Australia, and this is an official podcast of the ABC. So say hi to the Ombudsman for me. On PEP, we cover all the stuff that's too nerdy for TV. If you're listening, you can find us on YouTube at the PEP with Chaz and Dr. Dave channel, and you can find highlights there too as well. And we're on Facebook at the Chaz from Planet America channel. You also find timestamps and show notes in our blurbs, and if you leave a comment under our current episode video, we are likely to see it. You can also tweet us or blue skies at PEPCHASDRDAVE. That's at PepChaz Dr. Dave. If you want to chat to some fellow peppers, you can join our Discord server. It's on screen right now or in the blurb of the podcast. But if you want to contact me or Lockie the Lucky privately, why not email us? That address is producer at pepthepodcast.com. That address again is producer at pepthepodcast.com. I replied to a few this week, Lockie. About 5. It'll take some time. I'll get there. And do not forget to subscribe for all that peppy goodness. It all helps. And we're recording this at 2:49 p.m. on Friday afternoon. So it's going to be another Saturday morning special. Or 12:49 a.m. on Friday morning East Coast time. I'm about a day and 3 hours behind my reading, in case you're wondering. But for now, let's turn to the man who will never raise his stakes in inconsequential views. I speak, of course, of Dr. Pepper himself, Dr. David Smith.
All these Saturday morning specials, Chaz. Yes. We're going to knock aggro off his perch.
We got one more, I think, next week.
Okay.
Back to normal.
I am Dr. David Smith. I'm an associate professor at the US Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. But I do not speak for either of those institutions. I only speak for myself. And I want to apologise for something that I said in last week's disclaimer when I made a comment that suggested that obsessive-compulsive disorder is basically a kind of personal preference for neatness. Now, someone pointed out that...
Was this a correspondent?
Someone made a comment on YouTube, which... Okay. Which I can't actually find the comment now, so I can't name the commenter. But they made a very serious point, which is that in everyday discourse, OCD tends to be treated as a bit of a joke, as something that is just a kind of exaggerated personal preference for neatness, which is the way that I was talking about it. And this person pointed out OCD is a very difficult condition to live with. They described it as like being trapped in your own brain. And it's made all the more difficult by the fact that most people don't take it seriously. That makes it a really hellish condition to live with. And I have to admit, I had never thought about what it must be like to live with OCD. I had never even bothered to find out what OCD is. That kind of thoughtlessness is the privilege of those of us who don't have to live with problems that we talk about. So I want to apologise for that. I want to apologise for my thoughtlessness and for contributing to that problem that people with OCD experience in terms of not being taken seriously. I don't know anything about OCD, but I know the importance of taking people seriously. And I'm sorry that I was not taking you seriously in that moment.
That's a lovely correction / clarification, Dave. In fact, it's so good. If Media Watch is short of 3 minutes next week, you might find yourself on there. I know, I said I wasn't going to mention it, but it's just the opening was there. It was such a great correction. Do you have a grateful?
I do have a grateful. Yes. We have a new entry in the pantheon of crap statues. I didn't think that another one this good was going to come along so soon after Trump and Jeffrey Epstein holding hands, which, by the way, is back on the National Mall.
It's back.
Someone very cunningly put it back knowing that now the National Park Service is furloughed, so it's not coming down again
very clever.
Anytime soon. But in a far more official capacity, there has been a new statue of Tina Turner unveiled in her hometown and in Tennessee. Take a look at this.
Wow.
Now, for those of you who can't see that, good. It looks like the sculptor had been given a description of Tina Turner's hair, but has never seen human hair before.
Yeah.
Although did have access to the children's book Grug. That is what that looks like. Now, as far as crap statues goes, that is river deep, mountain high. In the crap statue pantheon, that is simply the best. That is CrapBush city limits right there. And that's what I'm grateful for.
Oh, we don't need another statue. Thank you, Dave. Look, I've got one of my patented provisional gratefuls I try every now and then where I'm giving Trump the benefit of the doubt, but I feel like maybe I shouldn't be.
Yep,
and so
that usually is the case. Yes.
Yeah, and so when I see something, I go, well, I think this is a good thing. I think it's something I'm happy about. I feel slightly gullible.
Yep.
But look, let's give it a provisional grateful.
Okay.
Until we find otherwise.
Yep.
Shall we say that?
Yes. Now, I wonder if this is the same one that I was thinking of. Because I was actually thinking of doing one of these too, and you know how rare that is.
Yeah. I'm talking about pharmaceutical costs.
Okay, I wasn't thinking of that one.
All right. Well, they are a perennial issue in America. Americans pay on average about 422% more for brand name drugs than other comparable nations. Although remember, like we always say when we bring this up, they pay less for generics.
That's true.
And people forget that, but most of the drugs that people buy are generics.
Yes.
But still, 422% is a lot. We've talked as well many times before about how Trump has no idea how percentages work when it comes to pharmaceutical discounts. He thinks that he can discount them by 1,000%, etc. But look, he made a big announcement this week about cheaper drugs. And while normally I would disregard this announcement as sounding too good to be true, for some reasons, against my better judgment, I thought this one might have some elements worth considering.
I've got a very good reason why I think you should have trusted your first instinct on this.
Let me put it out there and then you can...
Okay, yes.
Because look, I won't be surprised.
Yep.
I won't be surprised. I was looking around to try and find what is the bullshit here. I couldn't find it. So, but if you did, good on you. Firstly, the first thing that made me sort of stop thinking, maybe, is it wasn't just Trump. Pfizer was involved as well. Right? And Pfizer put out a statement saying that all their medications for Medicaid, all of them, will be set at most favored nation pricing. What that is referring to is pricing that's comparable to or less than the cost of other developed nations, not like third world countries, like developed nations, right? If that is true, that Pfizer are going to do that, and they're not lying, then that is significant in itself, just from Pfizer. Pfizer's a big company with a lot of drugs. And they said all of them, not some of them, all of them. Furthermore, Pfizer said they'd be offering all their drugs on a new website called Trump RX, which is an unfortunate name, where you can buy drugs directly from the government rather than going through the insurance system. The site will apparently be up early next year. That is certainly a red flag when you hear it will be available soon, in 2 weeks. Pfizer said that the large majority of the company's primary care treatments and some select specialty brands will be offered at savings ranging between, as high as 85% and on average 50%. There's some wriggle room there in what I just read out. The large majority of the company's primary care treatments and some select specialty brands will be offered at savings that will range as high as 85% and on average 50%. So there's a bit of wriggle room there. So that's the first go, okay, maybe it's a bit of bullshit. So I'm not sure about that. But they throw out a bunch of examples, dermatized medication discounted by 80% on the net price, they said. The net price is what consumers pay. So that's important. Postmenopausal osteoporosis meds discounted by 85%, migraine medication discounted by 50%, rheumatoid arthritis drugs discounted by 40%. Even the worst case scenario, if they're just doing them and they're just allowing all their drugs to be most favoured nation status, and that's not nothing. That's something at least. All right. They also said they'd be making a $70 billion investment in American research and development and manufacturing by 2030. I didn't care for that. That sounds like typical Trump bullshit. So I disregarded that. Okay.
Yes.
This is what Marty Macri, head of the FBI, had to say. Once again, he's usually a lot more cautious with his language than Trump is.
If you equalize your price, then we're going to put your future applications at the front of the line. A voucher to get a review in weeks has a market street value of about $500 million because every day is money when it comes to getting a drug approved. And so if you meet one of the president's national priorities stated very clearly, moving manufacturing to the United States, meeting a large unmet public health need, or equalizing your prices. We're the largest purchasers of drugs. We deserve the best prices. And so we're going to do our part.
Okay, so you got a mechanism there saying if you follow our rules, you will get approved faster, and that will save you money.
Yes.
So that's a mechanism by which this can work. Because that's something I was looking for. I was looking, what's the mechanism? You just go, magically prices will be lower. I don't believe that. But if you show me a mechanism, I think, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. And Trump said, as per usual, if companies don't comply, he'll use tariffs to punish them, as you'd expect. He said Eli Lilly is about to be on board as well. That's another big drug company, if they are. And he's talking about potentially tariffing 5, 6, 7, 8%, he says, if they don't play ball. We'll see. Mm-hmm. So could this be an illusion, an announcement that goes nowhere? Yeah, maybe. It definitely could. But because for the reasons I've just told you, I thought, look, it's at least possible. And if it's at least possible, I should cover it, and then until I find out a reason that it's not going to happen, and then I'll bring you the reason if I find it out. So, Dave, this might be where you come in. Oh, just one more thing. I'd like to know exactly what Trump either threatened or promised Pfizer to get them on board, because that is also an important thing. If he promised or threatened nothing, then it's clearly bullshit. But if he promised or threatened something that we don't know about, that's valuable, then you go, okay, maybe he played his cards well. I don't know. What is it that you've got for us, Dave?
Pfizer's share price went up 13% after this.
Yeah.
That would suggest to you that there's very little cost involved to Pfizer in this. But what our man was talking about there in terms of Pfizer moving to the front of the queue in its applications, that is very valuable to Pfizer. In terms of what this will cost Pfizer, it's been estimated $763 million. Do you know what Pfizer's revenue was in 2024?
A lot more than that.
$102.1 billion. Dollars.
Yeah.
This is not very much for some very good PR and getting to the front of the queue.
Why does it only cost $763 million?
Medicaid is something like 5% of Pfizer's market.
So the key word is Medicaid.
The key word is Medicaid.
Right.
Okay. So this is really a very small price for Pfizer to pay to get preferential treatment from the Trump administration. What I think that the ultimate effect of this announcement is just to increase the kind of corporate favoritism that has become the hallmark of the Trump administration. Congratulations. We now have the US government's official most preferred pharmaceutical company, and it's Pfizer, everybody's favorite. Favorite spelt with a P.
PF, yeah. That's good. That's good info. That's a good point. The Medicaid, I didn't think of that one. That's a good one. That's nice.
The one I was thinking about, which I actually think is a lot more substantial, is just before the shutdown, the FDA approved generic version of mifepristone.
I didn't know this.
Yes. Yeah. Now, that actually is significant.
Yeah.
That will actually help a lot of people.
It will.
And that, unlike this, which made all the wrong people happy, that made all the right people pissed off.
As I say, if they just approved it as well, there's been a lot of throat clearing about potentially cracking down on abortion pills.
There had been.
And so if they just approved a new one that's generic, good luck getting rid of that.
Suggests that that's not coming. So that, if I was doing a provisional, I was about to say provisional grateful. That's what I'd be grateful for.
Fair enough. Look, I think we worked our way through that section nicely. I've got a few of these myself, actually.
Okay.
Hey! And I want to involve you as well, Dave, so keep that clarifying coming. Right. First of all, there's a lot of positivity about our autism chat last week, though.
Okay, good.
People love that. Good. And there are a few points to throw into the mix as well.
Yep.
First of all, this is just a bit of a light-hard one from Dreadlord. Trump already has the tools to halt autism in his own playbook, which is, during COVID, Trump stated, quote, "We have got the greatest testing program anywhere in the world. Our tests are the best in the world. By having more tests, we have more cases. We need to stop testing so much. If we stop testing right now, we'd have very few cases."
Nice COVID throwback.
Well done.
Thank you for that, Dreadlord.
Ipso facto, stop testing for autism. It will go away. You're right. Owen says, I think you missed a highly relevant point when talking about Tylenol. I think you're right, Owen. This is a good point. It's not correction, it's just a point.
Yep.
Tylenol is commonly used as an antipyretic to treat fevers, but it's also perhaps even more commonly used as an analgesic to treat pain.
That is very true.
They are telling pregnant women not to take pain medication, which is a typical health conspiracy weirdo lunatic thing to do. Think natural birthers or free birthers. It aligns perfectly with what you were saying about RFK's obsession with purity. It's ridiculous and it's sexist. Another attempt to control women's bodies. I didn't even think about that.
Yep.
It's a good point.
Very good point.
Enyo is correcting me.
Okay.
Chaz, you can't catch hepatitis B from being in the same house as someone with hepatitis B, which is what I said.
Okay.
You might possibly be thinking of hepatitis A, which is spread by the fecal oral route and is a diarrheal disease, as is hepatitis E. Hepatitis B is a blood-borne virus for which the main route of transmission worldwide is vertical transmission from mother to baby, often while the baby is being born. If a newborn baby is infected during birth, they have a 90% chance to go on and acquire lifelong infection, unlike if acquired as an adult when it's often cleared. This is why immunization directly after birth is critical. Hep B is not so commonly associated with sexual transmission. It can happen, but it's rarer than for some other diseases.
Thank you very much for that, Enyo.
That was a good one. Environmental correspondence here for you, Dr. Dave, from Keith. Got to push back on Dave here, who commented that the reason European countries started embracing green energy so long ago is they ran out of fossil fuels. Sorry, Dave. That's altogether too cynical. Germany was the first European nation to embrace solar energy in the 1990s. Its 10,000 roofs program turned into the first solar feed-in tariff, which led to it building the world's biggest PV manufacturers and PV equipment manufacturers in the 2000s. All the while, they had the 6th biggest coal reserves in the world. Those policies were pushed first by the German Green Party and the German Left Party and continued by Angela Merkel, all in opposition to their right wing that wanted to keep embracing coal and nuclear. Germany's lead in solar was almost entirely driven by environmental concerns and then a desire to support its nascent PV industry, which it lost to China in the 2010s. I could go on. There's no doubt a link between fossil fuel reserves and support for solar, but it's not that strong. Europeans and Germans in particular were genuine in their environmental concerns.
I completely accept that correction.
And info for us from Merry Creek, according to the blokes on Pod Save America, who are all Obama staffers and speechwriters, they vouched that the White House controls the teleprompter tech, as one of them had the exact same issue back during one of Obama's speeches. Thank you for pointing that out, Merry Creek.
Just leaves us with escalator gate.
And then we've got a lot of correspondence about you missed this, Dave, at the end of PEP. I had a little run on about me drawing what the commenters unanimously have agreed is a false equivalence
between what?
Between racial profiling that happens from ICE and racial profiling from affirmative action. Right, I drew an equivalence. I was suggesting that the kinds of arguments you hear from the left against what ICE do are the exact arguments you hear from the right against what the left want with affirmative action, and the exact arguments you hear in support of the racial profiling from the right with ICE are the same arguments you hear in support from the left with affirmative action. Now, like, my brain is wired like this because I'm not from neither party, and also I'm a person who likes to see patterns. I've always been a pattern matcher. So there'll be times when I'll go, oh, that person looks like that, and everyone's just going, what? I do not see this. And this is definitely one of those times. No one agreed with me. I'm not going to read all the correspondence because it will take the rest of the pod, but a couple that I liked in particular. Farm Letty said I was being way too simplistic. The colleges don't just go African American who finished school equals admission, whereas the ICE agents are just saying Spanish speaking day labourer equals illegal alien.
Yes.
Definitely, they see. The Farm Lady says, I see the similarity, but mirror image way too strong. Joanna, this is my favourite one. This is my comment of the week.
Okay.
Thoroughly disagree with your last point, Chaz. I grant that taking race into account, amongst other considerations, sounds on the surface like the same argument in different directions from both sides. I don't think they're equivalent situations at all, though. Firstly, ICE racially profiling people is in service of detaining them, with an at least 50-50 chance they're doing so unjustly. This is a government agency violating the right to freedom of movement and association based on race. If it was, as suggested, a simple conversation, that may be a different matter, though it still puts one racial group on alert and potentially forces them to carry out identification, whereas other citizens would not be required to, which also gets fairly dicey. On the other hand, race-based affirmative action is taking race into consideration when granting access to something of value that is not a right, like tertiary education or employment. Also, race plays more than an identifying role in such a situation. There are good reasons why universities and companies would want people from diverse racial backgrounds for the inherent value to discourse and productivity that such diversity contributes. That's a great point. These situations are not the same, so using reasoning that sounds the same is not equivalent, is my favourite bit. If you say, I did it because, amongst other considerations, she's pretty, that's a perfectly fine reason to have given the person in question a flower, but not for having punched her in the face. That's a great comment, Joanna.
Yes.
Do you have anything to add, Dave?
Look, I don't even know what to say to that. I'm going to chalk that one up to sleep deprivation. The best way that I have seen this described was that basically the Supreme Court has said race can no longer be a factor in opening doors, but it can be a factor in locking people up.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
In one instance, it's about rectifying historical injustice. In another instance, it's about reinforcing historical injustice, such as not everything is a magic eye picture.
Yes. Now, to be fair, I was not suggesting they were identical.
No.
What I was saying was you hear the same arguments.
If by the same you mean some of the same words
yes.
are used across paragraphs.
Anyway, I'm not digging in here. I'm accepting the verdict. Okay, a few updates.
Okay.
You got a tariff update. A bunch of new tariffs announced in the last week, and we're just starting to accept them now. But they barely get news coverage. You go, yeah, here are some more 50% tariffs. Let's move on. First of all, we got pharmaceutical tariffs.
Yes.
100% for any patented drugs where the manufacturer doesn't have already or isn't building a manufacturing plant in the US. This is likely to do nothing. So I can see why I got no news coverage, because pretty much every major drug manufacturer has at least some presence.
I was going to say, it very briefly got news coverage just before we recorded last week's episode. But I seriously think over the course of about half an hour between when I first saw it and then when we came in here to do it, there were already Chirons up pointing out the number of Australian pharmaceutical companies that have manufacturing facilities in the US, so wouldn't be affected by it.
Yeah. I think drug manufacturers are onto this game already, even before it began. Truck tariffs, a 25% import tax on all heavy-duty trucks. I can't believe that tariff wasn't already there.
I know. I was sure that tariff. I've got some Mandela effect going on here.
Yeah. I felt like that was already there as well.
Yeah.
Maybe this is an additional tariff on top of something that was very close to that. I don't know. Furniture tariffs, a 30% tariff on imported upholstered furniture.
I saw this.
Okay. Also, furnishings tariff, a 50% tariff on kitchen and bathroom cabinets.
Yeah.
Now, those last two tariffs, go on, yeah?
That was more weirdly specific than a lot of the previous Trump tariffs.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder exactly where Trump was when he thought that one up.
Yes. Was he in a furniture showroom? Yes.
Yeah.
Wherever he was standing when he thought that one up, I think it's related to this tweet that came at the same time.
Okay.
In order to make North Carolina, which has completely lost its furniture business to China, and other countries great again, I'll be imposing substantial tariffs on any country that does not make its furniture in the United States.
Oh, okay.
So it's about North Carolina for some reason.
Right.
Fine, I suppose. But this is going to have an impact. Unlike the pharmaceutical tariffs, this actually means something.
Oh, yeah.
Because you throw in the steel tariffs as well.
Yes.
And this is going to have an enormous effect on the cost of construction. Like, there's a lot of construction that involves furniture and furnishings.
Yeah.
Right now, about 7% of all goods used in new residential construction come from foreign countries. Doesn't sound like much. That's still $14 billion in 2024. In some locations, it's a lot more. So, for instance, a June study by the real estate firm Everest found that tariffs could add anywhere from $26,000 to the cost of a new home in Oklahoma to $60,000 in California and Massachusetts to over $100,000 in Hawaii.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's real money. And that's leading to real inflation of property prices.
Yeah.
And when the administration supposedly has declared a housing affordability crisis. So go figure. And right now they're trying to deregulate the industry to reduce costs, they say. But even if they eliminated 25% of the regulation costs, which they won't, these tariffs would more than outweigh that. So, especially when you throw in the extra costs associated with removing illegal immigrant labour as well. Let's not forget that. So, more than 1/3 of construction workers are foreign-born, according to the 2023 census data. California and Texas, obviously more. A 2024 study found new homes became 18% more expensive within 3 years, and overall home prices increased 10% because of immigration enforcement.
Wow.
And ironically, in that study, the number of native-born workers in the industry also declined. And the reason why is because, quote, you need the relatively lower skilled folks to come in and frame the house before you need the relatively higher skilled workers to come in and finish the house. So when you have net losses in those low skilled occupations, it does lead to a slowdown overall. Anyway, and then there's film tariffs, which we've discussed before.
This coming back was not something that I expected.
Yeah, maybe Trump was watching a movie about furniture.
Can any peppers think of any great movies about furniture?
Do they have furniture in We Built a Zoo? They built something. Trump says...
Oh, there is furniture in The Passion of the Christ.
That's true.
In The Passion of the Christ...
Not steel.
Jesus invents the table. It's not enough that he's our Lord and Savior who dies for the sins of humankind. He has to invent the table as well.
And now he pays 50% because he's not from America. Trump says, our movie-making business has been stolen from the United States of America by other countries, just like stealing candy from a baby, in inverted commas. California, with its weak and incompetent governor, has been particularly hard hit. Therefore, in order to solve this long-time, never-ending problem, I'll be imposing a 100% tariff on any and all movies that are made outside the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. President DJT, drink, drink, drink. I still don't understand what this tariff means.
No. And I mean, for those of you
find out.
For those of you who didn't hear the discussion about this before,
yeah, go for it again.
It's not clear what he means by made outside of the USA.
Yeah.
Because especially the big budget, big revenue movies, nearly all of them at least have components.
Yeah, location shooting.
That are made outside and have for a very long time. I mean, it's probably been decades since you actually saw New York in a movie. Most of the time, you're looking at Toronto.
Yeah.
You've probably never actually seen Los Angeles, ironically, in a movie. You've seen Vancouver.
Yeah.
Movies will have a few shots in Kuala Lumpur just to lock down the Malaysian market.
Yeah, so what are you charging the tariff on then?
Yeah.
What portion of the movie?
The music may well have been recorded in the UK.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of, any kind of animation has probably been done outside of the US. Title credits may well not have been done in the US. Gigantic movies these days, like any other big product, like your humble shoe, for example, or your more complicated iPhone. These are all products that have components of them that are made in all different kinds of places.
Absolutely.
So... So that's the first thing that makes this incredibly complicated. Secondly, where does this tariff come in?
Yes. What are you charging the tariff on? The ticket price?
Yeah.
The budget? The production costs?
Yeah.
What are you charging?
I mean, back in ye olden days when there was a physical reel of film coming into the country from somewhere, then you could have put it on that.
But what if it's only a portion of the movies from overseas?
Who knows?
And are you going to walk into a cinema and have different ticket prices based on where it was filmed? That would be weird.
That'd be incredible.
What about streaming? How are you charging a tariff on streaming when people don't pay anything for that particular film as an itemized bit?
And when Trump was first talking about this months ago, remember, all of this is taking place under this emergency authority that is currently being challenged in the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So he said that the threat to the American film industry was a threat to national security. Try to get your head around that one. Now, I mean, the American film industry often has been involved in some ways with national security. Like Disney churned out tons of propaganda movies in the Second World War.
Yeah.
You know, Top Gun was a naval recruitment video.
Maybe he thinks all the superhero movies are like real.
Yes.
Maybe he thinks that the Avengers is a documentary. Maybe.
Giving away our national secrets.
Yes. I don't know what's going on.
No.
I don't think we're ever going to see that tariff. I think I think in 6 months' time we'll hear about it a third time on Truth Social.
I'm just going to make a personal plea to him
Yep.
on this point. President Trump, sir.
He's a pepper.
Your favourite movie, Bloodsport, even though, according to reports, you've only ever seen 40 minutes of it because you get your son to speed up all the bits that aren't fighting. Your favourite movie, Bloodsport, the critical scenes of that were filmed in Hong Kong, in the Kowloon Walled City.
Oh.
So Kowloon Walled City was this haphazardly built collection of shanty skyscrapers in this tiny piece of territory in Kowloon that was technically People's Republic of China territory, but because it was landlocked within Hong Kong, they couldn't really claim it, but at the same time it was beyond the control of the Hong Kong authorities or the British government. So it just turned into this kind of building free-for-all where there were a lot of unlicensed dentists operate. It's quite fascinating. You could look this up on Wikipedia, Kowloon Walled City. I've got a fantastic book about it called City of Darkness. It was demolished in the 1990s. But that's where a lot of Bloodsport, or at least some of Bloodsport, was filmed. Now, so that would have been subject to tariffs.
Should they exist?
Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent treehouse.
That was definitely a tangent treehouse. I wish I got the sting in on that. As soon as I heard Kowloon Walled City, I should have hit the button.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm full of regret. Appointment updates. I got a couple of quick ones here.
Okay.
White House withdrew the nomination for E.J. Anthony to head
Yes.
the BLS. What a shame. We never knew ye, E.J. Anthony.
Oh, it's always special when they just decide, no, he's too unqualified even for us.
Yeah, I do like to. I also share your joy in seeing exactly what makes someone not good enough for this administration. In this case, it wasn't because his appointment would have been a farce. It was because his deleted Twitter account pissed off too many Republican senators. Apparently, there was a bunch of sexually degrading tweets on it about Kamala Harris, and Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski were like, I'm not even talking to this guy, let alone voting for him. I'm not even talking to him. They refused to meet him. So that was enough. They got the hint. And the Supreme Court, that's one.
Yep.
The second one is Supreme Court's issued a temporary order before they hear the Lisa Cook case. Unlike every other congressionally appointed board, they're not going to let Trump fool with the Fed.
No.
He wants to sack Lisa Cook using as a pretext dubious allegations of mortgage fraud from Bill Pulte, there's probably a sting in the email, which I haven't got to yet. They're clearly not evidenced at all, these allegations.
No.
The Supreme Court said, we're not letting you sack her until we hear the case. And even more telling than that, they haven't expedited the case, unlike almost every other case involving the Trump administration.
Yep.
This time they said, you know what? We're in no rush on this one. We'll hear your arguments back in January, shall we? As Paul Keating said, they're doing him slowly on this one.
Yeah.
That tells us that the Supreme Court, they see no urgency. They're happy to let Trump go. It means the nightmare scenario I spoke about last week where Trump takes over the Fed, probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you that when two conservative institutions are in alignment, they can potentially collectively stand up to Trump.
Yeah.
But that's fairly rare.
And they don't require any legal reason to do so, because I have no idea what the legal basis is for singling out the Fed as opposed to every other board for special treatment.
This is pure ideological alignment.
Yeah. Well, I'd say I probably would. I mean, you might be right.
Yeah.
But I personally wouldn't put it that way. The way I'd put it is it's political convenience. That's what I'd say. Like they know it would destroy the country and destroy Republican influence in the country.
Yep.
So they go, no, we're not going to let you do that.
All right.
Sorry. Anyway, be grateful for small mercies.
This could be another instance in which the Supreme Court actually saves the Trump presidency from itself.
Yeah, very much so.
Because if they knock down the tariffs, that will definitely be saving the Trump presidency from itself.
I agree. Not normal update. I think I'm going to do this a lot more.
Not normal update.
Because there's a lot of times when I say something, I go, well, what was that kind of under? And I think this is one of those this is not normal situations.
Okay.
And I turned them into toilet breaks, whatever. I was going to have a not normal update.
Give us an NN.
Okay. So the Trump ordering private companies to fire their private staff because they were part of the Biden administration. That's not normal, all right? So
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. But
no, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. So we have a tweet here. Corrupt and totally Trump-deranged Lisa Monaco, a purported pawn of legal lightweight Andrew Weissman, was a senior national security aide under Barack Hussein Obama and a lawfare and weaponization-obsessed Deputy Attorney General under crooked Joe Biden, and Lisa's puppet boss, Attorney General Merrick Garland, who are all architects of the worst ever deep state conspiracies against our country. Russia, Russia, Russia. The January 6th hoax. That's a hoax now. January 6th was a hoax, apparently. The illegal raid on Mar-a-Lago, the Biden auto pen scandal, the documents witch hunt, and more. Monaco has been shockingly hired as the president of global affairs for Microsoft in a very senior role with access to highly sensitive information. Monaco's having that kind of access is unacceptable and cannot be allowed to stand. She's a menace to U.S. national security, especially given the major contracts that Microsoft has with the United States government. Because of Monaco's many wrongful acts, the U.S. government recently stripped her of all security clearances, took away all of her access to national security intelligence, and banned her from all federal properties. It's my opinion Microsoft should immediately terminate this employment of Lisa Monaco. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President DJT, drink. Seems random, doesn't it?
well, the capitalization was pretty random.
It always is. But yeah, why is he going about Lisa Monaco?
Oh, because someone's told him about it.
It's funny you say that, Dave.
Yeah.
Someone has told him about it. Because when you see something like that, you go, what could have sent him on such a random warpath? Mm-hmm. Someone told him about it. Do you know who told him about it?
I'm guessing Fox News.
No. Much more concerning when you realise who his information source is.
Okay, no, who is it?
It's Laura Loomer.
Oh, dear.
Just in, after I alluded President Trump to the fact that Microsoft has hired Lisa Monaco to be their new president of global affairs, he has just called on Microsoft to terminate her employment. At Satya Nadella, are you going to comply or continue to be two-faced? How dare you? Now, just to be clear,
yes,
Laura Loomer is chiding the CEO of Microsoft like she's some two-bit enforcer for the regime. How dare you?
Empress of snitches.
That's not normal, Dave.
No.
That's not normal.
No, it's not.
This is also not normal. I've got one more for you. Trump tweeted this out the other day. Let's look at the video.
Breaking now. President Donald J. Trump has announced a historic new healthcare system. The launch of America's first MedBed hospitals and a national MedBed card for every citizen.
Every American will soon receive their own MedBed card. With it, you'll have guaranteed access to our new hospitals led by the top doctors in the nation, equipped with the most advanced technology in the world. These facilities are safe, modern, and designed to restore every citizen to full health and strength. This is the beginning of a new era in American healthcare.
In this first phase, only a limited number of MedBed cards will be released. Registration details will be announced very soon.
Okay. Linton, we know that that's fake. So what has happened here is Trump has, to my mind, inexplicably posted a deep fake of himself.
Yes.
Promising the American people an entirely made-up technology.
Yeah, we should explain what medbed technology is for people. For people who don't live on the internet.
Yeah.
Medbeds are magical beds that cure all disease.
Yeah.
They make old people young again. They allow amputated limbs to regrow. They can achieve anything. And elites have had these medbeds apparently for years, if not decades.
Yeah. Which is why they live forever.
Yeah, and they haven't shared them with anyone.
Oh.
This is undoubtedly the secret behind what's his name? Paul Rudd. But now Trump, according to this AI video, is making them available to every American.
Why the hell would you post a video of yourself promising something to your craziest supporters that you can't possibly deliver?
This is why it's here.
I do not understand this at all. I mean, it's obviously fake.
It makes Trump look terrible to his biggest supporters.
It really does.
What's
Why
he doing?
would he post that?
Dave, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Does Donald Trump actually think that he made the medbed announcement and has forgotten it? Did he look at that and go, "Oh, that was really good from me. I should follow this."
Everyone should have med beds.
He must pay zero attention to what he retweets. He must just be flicking through stuff at a rate of knots. Oh, that's me. Right, okay, yep. Like, he mustn't pay any attention at all.
Did Devin Nunes bring that one to him and say, "This is a good one, sir"?
I don't know.
And he said, "Thanks, Devin. You've earned your $47 million this year."
And there isn't logic to it because he deleted it.
Yeah.
So when it was drawn to his attention that this was garbage, he then deleted it. So
I'm just trying to
what's
imagine
going
how
on?
that conversation would have went. Sir, this video isn't real. You didn't actually say those things, and sir, medbeds aren't real.
Also, can I point out, Dave?
Yes.
The listeners aren't going to appreciate this, but the viewers might. How is it that AI technology has gotten to the point where they can make at least a reasonable fist of making it seem like both Trumps, Lara Trump and Donald Trump, are saying fake words, but they can't replicate the Fox News chyron?
No.
I can replicate the Fox News chyron with Photoshop technology. How can they not do it with AI?
That is a really good point.
I don't understand.
That's a fantastic point.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's hands. It's not. It's not hard to do.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, it's like, obviously AI's got its limitations. I asked ChatGPT to draw a picture of an octopus playing the bagpipes.
Yeah.
Gave it 10 arms. Then I asked it to draw a picture of an octopus being angry about the Canberra Raiders losing. Only had 7 arms. I said same octopus. Right, so it's got its limitations.
Look, either way, Dave, that is senile and not normal. That's why it's
normal.
in the not normal
Big
update.
NN.
Okay, Dave, over to you now. You want to talk about Pete Hegseth?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it. I'm going to put my hat on because I'm right about everything apart from the end of last week's show.
Okay. So, Pete Hegseth announced last week that he was summoning basically all of the United States generals and admirals in the world.
Yes, the world.
To Quantico to talk to them.
That's got to be important, Dave. That's never happened before, ever. Like, that didn't happen in World War II.
No.
That's never happened.
No. Now, think about, first of all, the potential security risks that this involves. You've got the entire American military, not just high command, the entire American military command.
And the president.
Yes. Who he announced at the last minute that he was coming to talk to them as well in the one place.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone pointed out, it's probably not a terrorist attack that they've got to worry about. They're like, it's a bad cold. Could just temporarily, debilitate the chain of command.
I can't wear his hat. I'm taking it off.
They were not told what they were being summoned for.
No.
Now, I thought that it was going to be because Pete Hegseth wanted to know who'd been taking Whiteclaws from his fridge. But people were wondering, are we all going to get fired? Are we announcing that we're declaring a war?
To be fair,
Yep.
2 days earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So this is well before the event.
Yeah.
Newspapers were reporting.
Mm-hmm.
They were quoting defense officials as saying, "It's about getting the horses into the stable and whipping them into shape." And the guys with
they appreciate that analogy.
and the guys with the stars on their shoulders make for a better audience from an optics standpoint. This is a showcase for Hegseth to tell them, get on board or potentially have your career shortened. So the
Right.
reason was not firing everyone or a war
No.
or something really important.
Yeah.
It was, quote, optics, which explains why Trump won the piece of it.
Yeah.
He's the king of optics.
Now, we might as well just get this out of the way now.
Yeah.
From an optics point of view, it was actually pretty bad. And that's because generals, when they get together to listen to speeches by people who are ranking higher than them, they don't clap and hear and cheer and hoot and slap their good one.
Yeah.
USA, USA.
Yeah.
They don't do that.
Yeah, they're not like the army in South Pacific.
No. They sit there in silence.
Yeah.
And so you want to know what the optics of this was? It was Pete Hegseth constantly and increasingly desperately reeling off one-liners to no response whatsoever.
Yeah, it was flop sweat city.
It was not good optics.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's true.
But getting to what, the actual substance of this was, if you were going to be very generous, you would call it outlining Pete Hegseth's priorities as Secretary of Defense, or Secretary of War as he's now calling himself, even though that is technically, according to the administration itself, only a secondary designation.
Yes.
You could call it informing them of new policies, although not really.
You know what I'd call it?
What?
I'd call it informing them that he's just sent them an email.
Yes.
That's what it was.
This was your classic meeting that could have been an email.
Yeah. Well, like he literally said, everything I'm about to tell you, I've just sent you in an email. Okay.
So,
thanks, Pete.
It was the launch of an email,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's a very, very important email. It tells them that he doesn't like woke and that he likes the warrior ethos.
The warrior ethos. Yes. All things that were completely unknown.
No one knew that, Pete.
Before.
He's never mentioned that before.
Probably the most cringeworthy moment was when he was talking about under previous administrations, there's been a war on warriors. Someone wrote a book about that.
I heard someone wrote a book about that.
That was Pete.
That was Pete last year. That was basically his job audition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Perhaps not. Trump wouldn't have read the book. So.
Actually, no, I disagree. I like to be agreeable, but no.
Okay.
I'm gonna contradict you, Dave.
Yep.
That was not his audition. I'll tell you what his audition was.
Yep.
His audition was when he went to the mat defending a war criminal.
Yes.
That was his audition. when he just spent day after day, week after week on Fox News, just going to bat as hard as he could for a guy convicted of murdering a civilian.
Yes.
That's that was his audition to Trump.
Yes.
Trump was like, "That's my kind of war secretary."
Okay. We will get to his tribute to murdering civilians a little bit later.
Yes.
But let's go through some of the other things
Let's do that.
he said. Really, right up the top of this speech was that he can't stand the sight of fat generals.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the Joint Force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year. every year of service.
The little jokes where he laughs to himself.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Because no one else is laughing. Okay. So by PT, he means physical training, not pink Tanquerays. Now, he actually said, if I, as the Secretary of War, can do an hour's PT a day, then there's no excuse for anybody else. Yes, there is an excuse for everybody else. They've got real jobs. Pete Hegseth has way more time on his hands than any of the people in that room because Pete Hegseth is primarily a content creator. Okay? And a lot of this speech, but especially this section, it wasn't about fitness for combat, wasn't really about fitness of any kind. It was about appearance.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, someone can appear fat and be very fit and healthy. Someone can appear fat and be extremely good at tasks that demand great physical power and great physical endurance.
Yeah.
Okay? When he talks about doing an hour, his own regime of doing an hour of PT a day, that's because he's a TV personality and looking a certain way is extremely important to him, especially since his whole shtick is I'm a real man and I'm bringing masculinity back to the military, right? Your average soldier, let alone your average general, does not have as much time as Pete Hegseth has to spend every day on working out, on doing his hair, on selecting his no fewer than 3 American flag garments that he has to wear every day, and all of the other things that go into Pete Hegseth's primary role as a content creator, because that is what he is. He was put into the role of Secretary of Defense with no experience at all in the kind of decision-making that everybody in that room had. These are people who are coordinating military operations.
Yeah.
And some of them have been in the armed services for 30 or 40 years. When you get older, you do tend to, in many cases, put on a little bit more weight, especially if you have been very muscular. Okay, that eventually over time, that is going to translate into more weight. Look at just about any former Olympic swimmer. As I said, this is an obsession with appearance. And also, as I said, this is near the beginning of the speech. We begin to get the idea very early on. What this is actually about is essentially a tribute to Pete Hegseth.
That's a great call.
This is what this whole speech was.
Look, I just want to just push back slightly in one little way. I agree with almost everything you said, especially the bit about you can be overweight and fit.
Yes. Yeah.
Overweight might reflect your diet rather than your fitness levels.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I know this firsthand.
Yeah.
But, I have been overweight and very fit at times.
Yeah.
But let's leave aside the physical aspect, because I think you're right. He cares more about how they look than anything else.
Yeah,
but if all he cared about was people passing fitness tests, I actually agree with him that leaders should set examples for their people, and that you as a leader you should not ask the people who follow you to do something that you wouldn't be prepared to do yourself. So I do think it's good. It's good for morale in the army for generals to pass the same fitness tests that the cadets do. I like that.
Look, I can see that in terms of military leaders who are actually working with the troops every day. The people in that room, your average soldier in the field or on the base or wherever, isn't even seeing those people.
Yeah. All I'm saying is that there's a world in which I'm on board with Pete Hegseth saying every single person passes the same fitness test.
Now, I don't think that a 60-year-old general should be required to pass the same fitness test as a 21-year-old fresh-faced recruit.
It's funny you say that, Dave.
Yeah.
Because while what I'm saying is that they should, they don't. Because this has not been commented on much. But if I could just take over for one clip, I'm sure you would have got to this eventually anyway, but it comes up now. Let's talk about gender for a second, shall we?
Yeah.
All right? Because the next thing we're talking about fitness standards
Mm-hmm.
is that Pete Hegseth had a lot to say about combat requirements being set to, quote, the highest male standard only. Let's see
Yes.
the clip, and then let's talk about that.
Today, at my direction, each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only. I'm also directing that warfighters in combat jobs execute their service fitness test at a gender-neutral, age-normed male standard scored above 70%. But when it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender-neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it. That is not the intent, but it could be the result, so be it. It will also mean that weak men won't qualify because we're not playing games. This is combat.
This is another example where there's a world in which I agree with him. If you're going to have standards for combat, they should be gender neutral.
They already are.
Yeah.
They always have been. Ever since all combat roles were opened up to women, women have always had to meet the same standards for particular jobs, the same requirements for particular jobs.
Yeah, but the Hegseth's world say that they've been watered down.
No.
standards.
Where the differences are is in the physical tests that everyone has, the annual fitness tests that everyone has to pass, right? Which those are not about the specific requirements of doing the job. Those are about things like how many push-ups you can do. Now, how many push-ups you can do, that's an indicator of fitness, but it's not a specific requirement of doing a job. Men and women who are in the same combat roles have to pass the same requirements for doing that job.
Yep.
That has always been the case. That's why a lot of people found Pete Hegseth's comments quite confusing, because those standards have always been gender neutral.
Yeah, and just to keep going there, I've read a lot of feedback from female people in the military who also have no dramas with any of this. They go, that's fine. But did you get that bit in the middle? There's a reason I'm bringing this up now. To get that bit in the middle where he was talking about gender-neutral, age-normed male standards scored at 70%. Age-normed.
Yes.
As one female officer said to a newspaper, I'm fine with one standard.
Yes.
But if you can't distinguish between a woman and a man, then you can't distinguish between a 20-year-old private and a 50-year-old general.
That's right. If they're doing the same job.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Back to your point before.
Yeah.
He's not saying that the 60-year-old has to do with a 25-year-old.
No.
He's pretending they have to do the same thing.
Yes.
But what he actually said is they're going to do different things. So not even he is keeping to his own bloody standard.
No.
That he's supposedly advocating, but he is making women keep to that standard, just not his general buddies. So ironically, I think I've actually got a tougher position than he does, for what it's worth. But anyway, keep on going.
Yeah. So on the gender thing, he just seems very pissed off about the fact that combat roles were opened up to women.
Yes, he does seem pissed off.
And so he's talking about this thing he's made up called the 1990 rule, which is any change to army rules that happened to military rules that happened after 1990 has to be reviewed. So that was the last year before combat roles were opened up to women.
Because, the army was doing so great in the 80s and the 70s. They were just winning every single war they took part in.
Well, yeah, we may as well talk about that now, right? Yeah. So he says, since the Department of War became the Department of Defense in 1947, America has lost every major combat theater war. Now, that would come as news to veterans of the Korean War. He did make an allowance for the Persian Gulf War in 1991.
No, that was pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, but it was very overwhelming. Yes. So then he had this weird riff about the reason for that was because at that point the military was led by seasoned combat veterans from other wars like Vietnam, and so they, they knew not to mess around with all this woke shit. Just gonna, and he said, and we can do the same thing now because now all the leadership comes from the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. It was reasoning that made honestly very little sense.
Okay.
And coming back to the reason why all of this. Now, certainly many Americans would say that there have been conspicuous military failures in the 21st century.
Yes.
Okay, like the Iraq and Afghanistan wars.
Yes.
Does anyone believe that's because there were women in the military?
No.
Right? These things that he refers to as distractions, right? Does anyone believe that's the reason why they lost the Iraq and Afghanistan wars? Look, I've got my own theories about why they lost the Iraq and Afghanistan and Vietnam wars, and it's to do with the fact that at the outset of these wars, everyone involved in them was claiming that they weren't even going to be real wars. They're going to be very quick in and out military operations that would pay for themselves in the case of the Iraq War, and would involve minimal effort and sacrifice on behalf of the American people and minimal cost. And we're actually seeing the same thing now with the bombing of Iran. Right, that was a one-off thing. Definitely not going back there. Oh, we might have to if they start reconstructing the Iranian nuclear program. But that's just a complete one-off. This isn't going to draw us into any quagmires.
Yes.
Right? We've really learned our lesson. Okay, that's what sets you up for losing a war. Okay, it's not the presence of women in the military.
No.
Let's get to his next odd fixation.
Yes.
Which is beards.
Beards.
This also means grooming standards. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. We're going to cut our hair, shave our beards, and adhere to standards. Because it's like the broken windows theory of policing. It's like when you let the small stuff go, the big stuff eventually goes. So you have to address the small stuff. This is on duty, in the field, and in the rear. If you want a beard, you can join special forces. If not, then shave. No more beardos. The era of rampant and ridiculous shaving profiles is done.
I don't understand this at all. What's wrong with beards? Why is that not meet the grooming standard? They're not unhygienic. What's wrong with beards?
Beards were banned in 1984. My understanding is that was to do with the gas masks that were available at the time.
Okay.
That it was quite difficult to put them on. You can find any number of YouTube videos of people putting on contemporary gas masks while wearing beards. I remember also reading somewhere that there were this is a bit of a worldwide thing. Limitations on facial hair, which is partly to do with the idea that you should actually be able to clearly identify members of the military. Right? They've actually got to be accountable for their actions. And things like beards, sunglasses make them less accountable. He talked about the special forces exemption,
yes,
which is in Afghanistan in particular. There's this idea special forces soldiers should be allowed to grow beards because it helps them to blend in with the population more, make them more trusted by the population. However, because of things that special forces were doing in Afghanistan, they also got this reputation that, like, if you see an American with a beard, run.
Yeah.
Right? It in the end became a little bit counterproductive to trust. So beards were outlawed in 1984 in the military. But in the 2010s, they started to make allowances for people with beards. Now, the most widespread allowance is for people who suffer, I'm going to get the name of this wrong, folliculitis barbae, better known as razor bumps. So men who, when they shave, get these very painful bumps on their face. You've probably seen this before. And African Americans are more susceptible to this problem than white people. Okay, so this was actually a racial discrimination issue. It's allowing a lot of the people who got exemptions for beards. You're still not supposed to have them, but you can get exemptions for beards now. Right? A lot of the people who have them are African American men who suffer from this condition.
Okay.
Some of the other people who have them are people with religious exemptions, like Sikhs, Muslims, and Orthodox Jews. Yeah, you're basically saying, no, you're out of the military if this conflicts with your religious obligations. But he is just making this appear as a matter of personal preference. Can I just take a moment to remark upon how utterly uninspiring Pete Hegseth is? And how this is basically the worst TED Talk I've ever seen.
Yeah, it does have a real TED Talk vibe.
I think what he might have been aiming at was one of the most famous speeches in American military history. Not given by an actual general, given by an actor.
Yes.
But given that Pete Hegseth basically is an actor, I think this is probably what he was aiming for from the movie Patton.
I want you to remember that no bastard ever won a war by dying for his country. He won it by making the other poor dumb bastard die for his country. Men, all this stuff you've heard about America not wanting to fight, wanting to stay out of the war, is a lot of horse dung. Americans traditionally love to fight. All real Americans love the sting of battle.
Now that is your gold standard for cold-blooded, hard-headed military pep talk.
Yep.
Okay, that I think is what he was aiming at. He missed by a very long way. Okay, you compare the gravitas of, it's not General Patton, it's George C. Scott. Yep. Compare the gravitas to this.
In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the comparison. Well, they're both clean shaven. That's a comparison.
Yeah. I mean, among other things, Patton was aware of the protocol that assembled troops aren't supposed to cheer and hoot and laugh at dumb jokes, so he didn't make any, and he didn't have any pause for applause lines, which just so painful to watch. Yeah. This was an embarrassment. This was an utter embarrassment.
Can I tell you the bits which bothered me the most?
Yes.
Because we haven't even got to them.
Oh, no. This is all superficial stuff. This is all his appearance stuff. It gets worse.
The bit that bothers me, one of the things that bothered me the most is while he's obsessed with his physical standards.
Yes.
As you say, how people look.
Yes.
Let's be generous. Let's say higher fitness standards.
Yeah.
He's at the same time preaching lower mental standards.
Yes.
Any moment that we are not training on our mission or maintaining our equipment is a moment we are less prepared for preventing or winning the next war. That is why today, at my direction, we are drastically reducing the ridiculous amount of mandatory training that individuals and units must execute. We've already ended the most egregious. Now we're giving you back real time. Less PowerPoint briefings and fewer online courses, more time in the motor pool, and more time on the range. Our job is to make sure you have the money, equipment, weapons, and parts to train and maintain, and then you take it from there.
Why is he trying to reduce training? I get if he's saying the training doesn't improve them. Yeah, let's do different kinds of training. Sure, but he's suggesting a soldier is just about their current mission, and that's it. They're chum. They're just meat. You know, like this, like Putin, the way he sees his soldiers. You know, like a soldier's more than just their current mission. Their next mission as well. They're an overall person as well. Like making the soldier the highest standard possible. Surely that is the aim.
Yeah, I mean, what I think he was getting at, and I've read some interviews with former soldiers who say they felt that there was too much training about things like anti-human trafficking stuff or cybersecurity, kind of online courses that they would have to take. Which, when you put it in those terms, okay, especially for people in other workplaces who might have to do regular courses on cybersecurity or how to recognize human trafficking. People might go, oh, yeah, those things seem like a bit of a waste of time. But some of the courses that he's talking about removing include courses on the laws of war.
Yes, this is what I was saying. Back in April, they reduced those courses.
Yes. They made them non-mandatory.
Yeah, and soldiers' code of conduct. How is that not mandatory?
And courses on operational security. Once again, coming back to this whole thing about this speech is just a tribute to Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
Who needs courses on operational security?
Pete Hegseth needs courses on operational security. And all that stuff we've just been talking about is directly relevant to combat.
Yeah.
Like he's literally just saying lower standards of training for combat. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
But make sure you shave. I mean, he went into more detail about what he means right here as well.
We fight to win. We unleash overwhelming and punishing violence on the enemy. We also don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No more politically correct and overbearing rules of engagement. Just common sense, maximum lethality, and authority for warfighters.
What he calls politically correct, stupid rules of engagement is what I call discipline.
Yes.
Which I think it's a much more important form of discipline than shaving.
Yes. It's things like not killing civilians.
Yes, things like that.
Yeah, it's things like not abusing prisoners of war. Now, I don't know if he's ever heard of the My Lai massacre, but I'm sure he's heard of Abu Ghraib.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure he's heard.
It's part of their playing cards.
Yeah, of the kinds of abuses that went on in Iraq that not only did this result in the brutalization and traumatization and murder of large numbers of Iraqis, this did not help the American cause in Iraq. I would imagine he'd be familiar with that, but then again, as you said, he's got a history of going into bat for war criminals. Yeah. So once again, it's a tribute to Pete Hegseth and the Pete Hegseth way.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is if you've got where you are by defending war criminals for the war criminal friendly president, then yes, you're going to say, why don't we just make war crimes legal?
And while we're at it, we might as well play this clip because it goes right with what you're saying. Didn't get a lot of coverage, but this is the bit I found the most interesting of all.
We are overhauling an inspector general process, the IG, that has been weaponized, putting complainers, ideologues, and poor performers in the driver's seat. We're doing the same with the equal opportunity and military equal opportunity policies, the EO and MEO at our department. No more frivolous complaints, no more anonymous complaints, no more repeat complainants, no more smearing reputations, no more endless waiting, no more legal limbo, no more sidetracking careers, no more walking on eggshells.
Once again, lower standards, less discipline.
And from someone who himself has been subject to workplace complaints, pretty serious ones.
And who's currently being investigated by the Inspector General.
Yes.
Yes.
Once again, this whole thing is a tribute to Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
There was another line in there somewhere about not letting people's minor infractions haunt them for their entire careers.
Like murdering a civilian.
As I say, the whole thing was pretty embarrassing. Even though the response to any speech would have been complete silence, I think that the silence was particularly appropriate.
Deserved. I'm not going to play the clip because I don't want to waste time, but there was the other thing which I found quite funny was him enthusing about they're going to start yelling at soldiers again.
Oh, yes.
Like he's got this vision of the army like an 80s movie. Like,
Yes.
Like Full Metal Jacket or something.
Yes. And he said, and they'll be allowed to put their hands on soldiers again.
Yeah. I felt to me like a particularly Trumpian take. Like,
Yes.
yeah, we need to get the army back to what it was like on TV when I watched it last night. Yeah, that's what we need.
Now, I think that Trump is a fan of the movie Patton. Nixon was a huge fan of the movie Patton, like he would make people watch it in the White House.
Yeah.
But in fact, in that movie, And this happened in real life. Yeah, Patton's career suffers a major setback because he slaps a soldier whom he considered to be a malingerer because it was someone who had shell shock in a military hospital. I see. He's like, I'll not have... I can't remember what his words was. I won't have quitters in my hospital or something, and slapped him. Even in the 1940s, that was seen as bad. Like, you're not actually supposed to slap people because they've got shell shock. So the imagination of, this magical time when the army was much better and more lethal because you could just slap people all over the place. It's completely imagined.
Do you have anything else to say about this speech? Or I suppose we haven't even mentioned Trump's bit.
Oh, God. Well, Trump's main contribution was then to suggest that American cities might be training grounds.
Yeah, we got the clips on this one.
But together with many of you in the room, we've brought back the fundamental principle that defending the homeland is the military's first and most important priority. That's what it is. Only in recent decades did politicians somehow come to believe that our job is to police the far reaches of Kenya and Somalia, while America is under invasion from within. We're under invasion from within. No different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms. At least when they're wearing a uniform, you can take them out. These people don't have uniforms. But we are under invasion from within. We're stopping it very quickly.
I suspect that the people in that room might disagree. The people who are in the country illegally and working at Home Depot are the same as enemy combatants who are not wearing uniforms, and that's the same thing as an invasion. Yeah. I suspect that career military officers might disagree with that assessment. Once again, it's probably for the benefit of Trump and Hegseth that they weren't allowed to make any kind of reaction to that speech whatsoever. The final thing from Hegseth that I want to mention was his line towards the end about saying that, you guys, you kill people and you break things for a living.
Yeah.
And I know, not all of you would belong in polite society. Now, what the fuck did he mean by that?
He seems to just hate his own troops.
He really does.
Yeah. So condescending to them.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I have met a fair few either current or retired military people in my life. None of them would have had any problem fitting into polite society.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They don't march into any scenario just to see who they can punch in the face.
It is not the Genghis Khan army.
No. No. They're not incapable of having a conversation without, without using a sexist slur or a racist slur.
They're not Vikings.
No. No. But that is how Pete Hegseth seems to imagine them.
Yeah, he imagines his own troops as Visigoths.
Yes.
That's how he imagines them.
Yeah.
I got so many things to say about at this point. Okay, we'll get back to Trump in a sec, but because we sort of left him hanging there. But as I say, just one quick thing. Well, it's actually two quick things about Hegseth. Number one, I found very funny the conservative reaction in some papers. The Daily Wire trying to make him out like he was this great thinker. I noticed.
Well, they wouldn't have been able to make out like he was a great speaker. Right, so you got to go for something. That was the worst TED Talk ever.
I know down this quote, which was quite funny. The Daily Wire observed many of these US military leaders taking notes during both Trump and Hegseth's remarks. Can you imagine how much of a meathead you would have to be watching someone talking about how there's going to be no more woke shit and thinking, fuck, I better take notes. Don't forget any of these goals. Even though he's putting this speech online and he's sending me an email with all this in dot points anyway, I better take notes. Don't want to forget a word. Anyway, so I found that very funny. But also, I was just trying to think to myself, what is this about? Why is he doing this?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, this might be a function of the fact that on the weekend, the reason I didn't make Planet America on Monday was because my daughter swallowed a pin and I was in hospital with her when she was trying to digest this pin. But anyway, I fell way behind my reading, even by my
We
standards.
hope you've enjoyed this little visit to Planet Chaz.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, but anyway, I in hospital I couldn't do much reading. I felt like 800 articles behind, and so I read like 3 days in a row, all in one day, trying to catch up, like just like a nut after I was out of the hospital. So I read about Hegseth's speech.
Yes.
This is going somewhere. I read Hegseth's speech the same day I read about 3 days before Hegseth's speech. And those periods were right next to each other for me.
Yeah.
And so I read about this speech right after I read how on Monday, career military officials expressed concern about Pete Hegseth's overhaul of the Pentagon's priorities.
Yes.
How he's prioritising domestic threats from the enemy within rather than focusing on US competition with China,
Yep.
America's role in Europe and Africa, like his officials would prefer. They fear that's going to weaken America's military readiness. Even Dan Raisin Kane is apparently concerned with the rollout of Hegseth's strategy. And there was a very smug anonymous source who said, he gave Hegseth very frank feedback. I don't know if Hegseth even understands the magnitude of the NDS, which is why I think Kane tried so hard. That's pretty condescending too. Anyway.
Wow.
I wonder.
Do you think Dan Kane's still going to have his job in a month?
Or
will they just directly replace him with Dean Kane?
Let's ask Laura Loomer. Yeah, there was an obvious subtext here that Hegseth is not just an empty suit, but an idiot.
Yes.
And I wonder if this was Hegseth's response to those vibes, because those vibes got into the paper undoubtedly days, if not weeks, after they got to Hegseth.
Yes.
And so I wonder if Hegseth felt undermined, insecure with the reaction to his NDS amongst the generals, and if he doubled down on what he knows, which is basically no woke shit, no bedos.
Yeah.
And that's the result.
That speech radiated insecurity.
Yeah. No, okay, well, so he played the first clip of Trump. I would suggest that his history is not correct, that the military were never about patrolling America. Like he was suggesting, that they used to be out fighting wars, and when they weren't fighting wars, they went home and performed some other job because they weren't full-time professionals.
Right. They were disbanded between wars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they didn't patrol in the streets of Chicago. And that's when Trump then moved on to the bit which you highlighted.
We have many cities in great shape, too, by the way. I want you to know that. But it seems that the ones that are run by the radical left Democrats, what they've done to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places. And we're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within. Controlling the physical territory of our border is essential to national security. We can't let these people in. It's really a very important mission. And I told Pete, we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military. Because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city with an incompetent governor, stupid governor, stupid.
This is a very dangerous mindset, though.
Yes.
Like using America's cities as a training ground for the military.
Yeah, and I mean, coming back to your not normal point, because so much has changed and so much has become normalised, it is easy to forget how shocking it would have been 10 years ago, the idea that you have a president talking about using American cities as training grounds because the governor is stupid, or sort of denigrating previous administrations in the way that Pete Hegseth did in his speech. It is that this attempt to politicise the military is not normal at all. For all its imperfections, the pretty strict divide between civilian and military control in the US Army and other branches of the armed forces has been very important. The fact that the armed forces have always rigidly seen themselves as apolitical has been very important. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously it relates to some topics which we're probably not going to have time to get to later on, but we might. We'll see. Well, why don't we talk about the shutdown? Because that's the biggest story at the moment.
That is the big story, yes.
All right. First of all, can I just say, I hate shutdowns because so much of the news in shutdowns is about game playing and positioning, who gets the blame.
Yep.
It's just pointless bullshit.
Yes.
It's mind reading from the news media, essentially. Mind reading the public, usually citing polls that are all about the wording of the poll.
Yep.
They may or may not actually reflect anything meaningful. I've got a great clip that is an indication of just how ridiculous and self-aware the polling talk gets from Chuck Schumer. I mean, like, these guys are laughing because they're all having fun. It's just theatre.
Now, I know the leader is going to show a poll that says that Democrats will be blamed for the shutdown. There are many more polls that show Republicans are blamed. The question in that poll is biased. Biased. In the New York Times, but it's biased. If you turn the... That's true. I don't always believe the New York Times. You can be sure of that.
They're just having a good time. They're just chilling out. They're about to have a holiday. At the end of the day, maybe you can correct me on this. Maybe the Peppers can correct me on this. I can't think of one election that shutdowns had a real impact on.
No.
Everyone forgets shutdown posturing the week after the government reopens and they just move on. That's my little preview of where we're going from here. First thing we should do is just explain what a shutdown is.
Okay, yes.
We should do that. We've had some people ask us that in correspondence, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, the government's got to pass a budget by the end of the fiscal year on September 30. For the last few decades, they've pretty much never done it on time. So what they do instead is pass what they call these continuing resolutions, which are extensions of the current funding trends for an extra few months to finish passing the budget.
Yep.
Okay. If they don't pass something, then they run out of appropriated money and the government, in inverted commas, shuts down. Now, in reality, the government doesn't actually shut down. This is a metaphor. The Office of Management and Budget just what they call furloughs a bunch of public workers, which means putting them on temporary layoff, essentially. Out of the 3 million or so public servants and military, most of them just keep on working. Only 750,000 out of the 3 million get furloughed.
Yeah.
Non-essential functions of the government, they get shut down, but most of the functions of the government are essential. And essential functions and workers just keep on going. Workers don't get paid.
Yes.
At the time, but they do get paid in back pay afterwards when the budget finally passes.
So, for example, aircraft traffic controllers, they're pretty essential.
Yeah.
There's currently a shortage of them.
Yeah.
They're still working.
They're sure working.
And they're not getting paid.
Yeah, and there's heaps of essential functions. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid payments, they're continuing.
Yeah.
Although some of the staff might be on furlough. Law enforcement, that continues.
Yes.
Healthcare continues.
Yep.
The military continues.
Yes.
Anything that involves the preservation of life and property, national security, it all continues. The Supreme Court continues. Other federal courts may keep going, may not. I think at the moment they've got enough money for 2 weeks of other federal courts. They're a bit complicated. It's actually precious few non-essential functions. It's not like national parks, basically. They're the things that get closed down.
Yeah.
The big question is who chooses what stays open and what shuts down? And the answer is the president.
Yes.
Usually through the Office of Management and Budget or the OMB.
Yep.
In this administration, that's Russell Vought, who's the administration's most devoted budget cutter. The president essentially has the power to do what he likes, which Trump will enjoy. No surprises here. 95% of DHS employees are going to keep on working, apparently.
Yes.
Immigration enforcement, they're not going to miss a beat. Usually the president will announce in advance what their plans are. This administration, surprise, surprise, did not do that. By law, everyone does get paid eventually.
Yep.
But during the shutdown, no one gets paid except for the president and the Congress. It's not because, before we even get started on this, don't give me populist shit. It's not because of their elites. It's just because of the Constitution. Okay, they're written into the Constitution. You can't change their salary at any point in time for any reason. Okay, so they get paid regardless. And then they decide which congressional staff are essential and which aren't.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. In terms of this shutdown, in terms of numbers, there's a clean bill on the table right now that was passed by the House 417 to 412. Clean bill means it's just there's no riders, there's no extra elements. It's just everything just cruises on the same for a few months. It was voted basically along party lines. I won't go into details of the differences, but there was only 1 or 2 votes on each side.
Yep.
that bill extends funding until November 21.
Yes.
That's like, yeah, so it was originally 7 weeks. It's now 6 weeks, I guess.
Yep.
So that's at Biden levels, that funding for 7 weeks to negotiate the details of the final budget bill. That failed in the Senate 55-45. Bearing in mind you need 60 votes to beat the filibuster.
Yep.
The three non-Republicans voting for that were Senator Cortez Masto from Nevada, John Fetterman, who's been very vocal against the shutdown,
Yep.
and Angus King, the independent.
Yes.
They all vote with the Republicans for the clean extension bill. Rand Paul voted no because he said there was too much spending in the extension.
Yep.
So they need 5 more Senate Democrat votes to happen. The Democrats have their own short-term extension bill on the table. It lasts till October 31. It legislates the permanent extension of Obamacare subsidies, rolls back Medicaid cuts from the one big beautiful bill, refunds public broadcasting, and restricts the White House's ability to rescind funding.
Yes.
Through impoundment.
Yep.
That's a lot to ask for a 4-week extension.
Yeah.
The Republicans are obviously not even considering that. So in reality, the only way this is going to end is when 5 Senate Democrats have had enough and sign on to the Republican clean bill.
Yep.
Whenever that will be. There's no world in which Republicans are going to kneecap the big beautiful bill and take Trump's ability to control spending away for a 4-week extension of government. There might be a compromise. Maybe they'll get together and have a compromise. But Mike Johnson isn't even allowing the House to even be in Washington while this is happening. He sent them home. So the only option available at this point in time is for Senate Democrats to pass the clean extension bill. Okay, I've set it up. Dave, what are you going to say?
The permanent extension of the Obamacare subsidies, I could actually see happening.
Yeah, they've got 10 Republicans in Congress who say they want it to happen.
Yes, yeah.
So that can totally happen.
That could actually happen, yeah. So in the end, Republicans will get a lot more of what they want, but that's something I can actually see Democrats getting out of it.
Yeah, I would say the most likely way that would happen
Yeah.
is if they get a clean extension and during that 7-week period, they negotiate in the next budget for that to happen.
Because Trump has been making noises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like I said, Mike Johnson isn't even bringing Congress back.
Yes.
They literally can't do anything but have the clean bill until Congress comes back.
Yeah,
Having said that, I totally agree with you that the Obamacare subsidies, They all they want to do is just extend them a year.
Yes.
Republicans get past the midterms with good reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could definitely see them happening down the track.
Yeah. But the biggest issue is rescission.
Yeah.
Right. The biggest issue is we're now in a world where, yes, you need to clear the filibuster in order to pass a budget, but then you don't need to clear the filibuster in the next year just to claw spending back. This was one of the, in some ways, unheralded but really significant shifts that has taken place in executive congressional relations during the Trump administration.
Yeah,
but
totally.
normalizing rescission in this way and making it easy.
Yep.
This increases the incentives for Democrats to go into shutdowns. Right? Because really at this point they feel that not even a matter of a level playing field. There is no playing field anymore. Okay, as soon as this budget is passed, then Republicans can do whatever they want again for as long as they have the majority.
You should just make clear to people when Dave's talking rescission, he's talking about is the fact that Trump, under the Empowerment Act, can and has now can just isolate, say $10 billion of spending here, send it to Congress, and then you can't filibuster that.
Yeah.
With 50 votes in the Senate, they can agree to cut that $10 billion of spending. And so like Dave's saying, you need the filibuster to pass spending, but to get rid of spending, you don't need the filibuster.
Yeah. Now, of course, they won't be able to address that problem until they've got a Democratic president as well as a Democratic majority in both houses.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to address the empowerment problem. But I think this gives them the incentive to participate in this kind of theatre in the meantime, because really they don't actually have very much to lose at the moment, right? And I mean, all of the talk about blame for the shutdown, it annoys me as much as it annoys you, but I think that the picture around blame is incredibly simple from the point of view of the American people, which is Republicans have the White House and both houses of Congress. They are going to get blamed for shutting down the government. Not that it's going to matter. very much at all. But when I read analysis of this, saying, oh, yeah, the blame will fall on whichever party is perceived as not having voted for a clean resolution. No, those words are meaningless to most people. But at least 2/3 of Americans will have some idea of who controls each branch of government. And that's who's going to get blamed for the government shutting down. As Theda Scotchbowl, who's a political scientist, said about the Trump administration, basically, because of the way that he has projected himself, right, as like we have all of the power, then the idea that, as you see now on some government websites, Democrats have shut down the government, that is just not going to make sense to people. Like, what? Don't you have all the power? Don't Republicans have all the power? The thing is, he owns everything at this point, right, including the shutdown. I don't think it's actually going to hurt him very much. But when Democrats inevitably do pass the clean resolution, it's going to be because of the damage that's being done to the country, not because of any damage that's being done to their political prospects.
On the empowerment thing,
yeah, like
everything you said is correct, but I actually think it's worse. In that you were just saying that you have this perverse situation now where you need to do a deal and have filibusters and overcome filibusters, et cetera, to get spending happening. But then to just undo that deal, you don't need a filibuster. Actually, to undo that deal, you don't even need Congress because right in the middle of this, Supreme Court, in Department of State versus AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition, just now made a temporary ruling, one of these famous temporary rulings of theirs, until they can hear the case properly. The case is about $4 billion in appropriated foreign aid spending that Trump has refused to spend. And to be clear, there's a law on the books that demands it be spent.
Yes.
Trump ignored that law, said he was going to impound that money, didn't do the rescission thing, just hasn't spent the money.
Yeah.
Supreme Court have allowed him to cut that. So, I don't know what the Supreme Court's going to do when they finally hear the case for real, but they rule along pars and lines, the Supreme Court, when they did that. Their reasoning, it doesn't even make sense to me, to be honest. It's only one sentence long, and it doesn't make sense. I'm not going to go into the detail of it because, even though it's only a sentence, because the reasoning could change when they hear the case properly. I don't want to waste your time.
With one sentence.
Well, but it's just, I have to explain it.
Okay.
It's not an easy sentence.
Okay.
Yeah. The important thing is that the Supreme Court has hinted that Trump can just impound whatever spending he likes, regardless of what Congress says, which means Trump alone can go back on any deal that is struck between the Democrats and the Republicans when they reopen the government.
Yep.
The Democrats have a really strong argument here, if they want to make it, that there is no point them funding the government if Trump's just going to ignore their funding requests.
Absolutely,
anyway.
yes.
And the Supreme Court just made that a real possibility. So that's a huge asterisk on all the negotiations.
Yep.
Right there now. I don't know what the Supreme Court's doing. But
they're doing what they've been doing ever since Trump created the current supermajority. Yeah.
On that point about whatever happens, just the to the extent that it matters, and you acknowledge that it doesn't matter much, that Republicans are going to get the blame. I think you're right about the point that the only thing anyone knows is that Republicans control Congress, and Trump's always going on about how he controls everything.
Yes,
that is true. That is actually true. But I do feel that at the very least, to the extent that anyone listens to what anyone is saying, that John Thune in particular, I think, has a very, very clear, simple argument, much more straightforward than anyone else's argument.
The Democrat caucus here in town, in the Senate, has chosen to shut down the government over a clean, nonpartisan funding bill. That's right, a clean, nonpartisan funding bill. We didn't ask Democrats to swallow any new Republican policies. We didn't add partisan riders. We simply asked Democrats to extend existing funding levels to allow the Senate to continue the bipartisan appropriations work that we started. And Senate Democrats said no. Why? Because far-left interest groups and far-left Democrat members wanted a showdown with the president. We're happy to sit down and talk about these other issues that they're interested in, but it should not have anything to do with whether or not, for a 7-week period, we keep the federal government open so that this government can continue to do its work and that we can continue to do our work through the regular appropriations process to fund the government.
I think that's a very, very simple message, that all we need to do is just keep the government open while we talk. You want to have a you want to argue about healthcare? Let's argue about healthcare, but let's just keep the government open while we do it.
That may sound simple to you, and you know who John Thune is.
Yes.
Again, this is not most people.
No, it's not. I know.
Yeah.
No, I think your cynicism there is not cynicism; it's realism.
No, this is grounded in political science research about how much people actually know about the government.
Yeah,
they know basically the minimum that they need to know to get by in their ordinary lives. Okay, they don't. I mean, that's not everyone. Obviously, there's a certain percentage of the population that is very politically engaged. Most of them are taking their cues from their party elites.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But for those who are not, I mean, I don't know what name recognition of John Thune is out there.
I can't imagine it's much.
I would be very surprised if it's above 50%. I'd be very surprised if most people know what what a clean resolution is.
Yeah. I'll be guessing 25, by the way.
For Thune?
For Thune, yeah.
Yeah. No, I was being a little bit generous.
Lockie feels I'm being generous with 25. Lockie's doing this car.
Don't know who he is.
Lucky.
33.
It's 33 in this room, sure. Sorry, so 66 in this room.
Yeah.
Okay, now look, you do make a good point. But also I would say even harder is when, while Thune's message, I think is a very straightforward message, he's the only one with that message.
Yes.
They're not on the same page.
No.
They're all over the shop.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help when you got different messages coming from different people from the same side. The Democrats are kind of united on their message. All they're talking about is healthcare.
Yes.
But, whereas the Republicans, they're a bit more all over the place. And I should say as well, by the way, while there's an elegance to John Thune's argument, if you're a Democrat and you're hearing that, you're not trusting that.
No.
Like you're going, yeah, okay, and then you're just going to screw us as soon as we give you what you want. Now, there's no guarantees there.
Yeah.
It's just like a handshake for a discussion.
I do love the calmness of John Thune's voice.
Yeah.
Like, I think you could go to sleep.
You certainly could.
To that.
I'm here to tell you can definitely go to sleep to John Thune's voice. Done many a time. In terms of the other Republicans, you got Mike Johnson, who is, for some reason, he's obsessed with trying to get this talking point through about illegal immigrants and healthcare.
Oh God, yes.
Democrats, let's have a look at a few examples. He's got a few of them.
The Democratic proposal is designed to prevent millions of Americans from losing their health insurance, losing Medicaid coverage, or paying higher health care premiums. Why are you against that?
That's an absurd statement, what you said there. Let's be clear about what happened last night, George. No, George, let me tell you what happened last night. Everybody can go and review the facts for themselves. 44 Senate Democrats voted to reject a clean, nonpartisan continuing funding resolution to keep the United States government open. The Democrats said instead that they wanted to give health care to illegal aliens instead of keeping critical services provided for the American citizens. That's what happened, plain and simple.
Chuck Schumer has refused to give the extra time. Why? Because we won't agree to restore health care to illegal aliens.
It's gotten to the point where Mike Johnson is even making up fake written deals with this supposed provision in it.
Mr. Speaker, at that meeting yesterday, did they present, and I don't know how much you can talk about what went on, but did they give the Democrats an entire wish list of things? Did they say they want health care for illegal immigrants and I don't know, funding, some TVs? They said we want all these things.
Yes, and they put it in writing.
Put it in writing.
That's pretty damning.
Yeah, Hakeem Jeffries disagrees.
Is it true that you want to restore American taxpayer benefits to illegal immigrants?
Of course not. And thank you for asking that question, because this is also an outright lie. Federal law prohibits the use of taxpayer dollars to provide medical coverage to undocumented individuals. That's the law. And there is nothing in anything that we have proposed that is trying to change that law. We are fighting for the health care of the American people.
Okay, so that seems a pretty stark contradiction there between they put it in writing and then Hakeem Jeffries going, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Then we get to J.D. Vance, who loves this talking point more than anyone else.
Yeah.
He says it multiple times every time the shutdown's brought up. In fact, I feel like he was trying to break the world record here for illegal aliens mentions in this answer. We're talking a 50-second answer I'm about to play here. See if you can count the number of times he refers to this talking point in 50 seconds.
We have to realize the Democrats, their whole argument is we are going to shut down the government unless you give $1 trillion for medical benefits for illegal aliens. The major healthcare reform that we've done in this administration is we've made it harder to give your hard-earned tax dollars to medical benefits for illegal aliens. The Democrats want to undo that. And they're saying that unless you give that money to those illegal aliens, unless you give those benefits to those illegal aliens, we are going to shut down the people's government. It's such a stark contrast between two parties' priorities. We want to put the government to work for the American people first. The Democrats want to shut down the government because we won't give free benefits to illegal aliens. It's such a good, again, contrast for what the Democrats stand for and what Republicans stand for. We're not going to be taken hostage by the Democrats' desperate desire to give your tax money to illegal aliens. We're just not going to do it.
That's a fair effort. You got to give credit. 6 times in 50 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I couldn't understand anything he was saying because he's got a beard.
Touche. Okay, so what is going on with this? All right, there are actually, I'll give J.D. Vance credit when he isn't saying illegal aliens over and over again. He actually he's the only person I've seen who even tried to explain this bullshit talking point. And because of that...
You've got low standards for what counts as an explanation.
No, I haven't played it yet.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't an explanation. I'm about to play the explanation.
Okay, right.
Okay. And then after that, I'll translate into English.
Okay. There are 2 Biden-era programs that explicitly gave the taxpayer health care money to illegal aliens that we turned off when President Trump took over in January. Program number 1 is there's a lot of emergency health care at hospitals that are provided to illegal aliens. That was funded by the federal government. We turned off that funding because, of course, we want American citizens to benefit from those hospital services, not to be taxed and then to have those hospital services go to illegal aliens. The second of which is the Biden administration gave mass parole to millions upon millions of illegal aliens, and then they simultaneously made those parolees eligible for health care benefits funded by taxpayers. In the One Big Beautiful Bill, President Trump and congressional Republicans turned off that money to health care funding for illegal aliens. The Democrats want to turn it back on. And in their initial proposal, the first thing that they put out to reopen the government, they actually turned that money for health care benefits for illegal aliens back on.
All right, so I understand finally what he's talking about. I know why it's misleading. So let me now explain why it's bullshit. Now I know what they're talking about.
Yes.
He gave 2 examples, right? The first one was about emergency rooms.
Yes.
All right. So when you have with emergency rooms, when someone turns up, like there's been shot or run over, whatever, they're supposed to get health care.
Yes.
Right. There are 12 states which say we don't care who these people are. You treat them.
Yes.
And we'll pay for it. Right. If it's an emergency. All right. They are blue states.
Yes.
Unsurprisingly.
Yep.
And the legal aliens, they get paid for just like anyone else.
Yes.
If they're not covered with health insurance.
Yes.
If it's an emergency and they're about to die.
Yeah.
Okay. That is what he was talking about there. That's not coming from federal money.
No.
That's coming from state money. It's Medicaid.
Yes.
Right? Now, the federal government does pay some Medicaid, but the states pay more.
Yes.
So maybe if you're pushing it, you'd say, oh, well, depending on how the accountancy works, you could say that that's coming out of the federal government's part, whatever. In the Big Beautiful Bill, they fined states for paying that.
Yes.
And states could continue to pay it anyway if they wanted to, but they were getting a fine. All right? That's what he's referring to there.
Right.
That. Okay? I don't count that as Democrats fine for illegal immigrant health care. I count that as just them trying to return Medicaid funding to what it was.
Yes.
And the states can choose what they do with it. Right?
Yes.
That's number one. Number two is even worse. He's talking about parolees. Yeah. Right? Parolees are like, we're talking about people who come from, say, Venezuela, come from Ukraine, come from screwed up countries. Right? And so they're allowed to stay in America for a while.
Yeah.
While their country gets itself together. Right?
Yes.
Now often
Haiti's
a classic example.
Yes.
Often these temporary parolees turn into permanent situation, and the Republicans don't like that. I get that. They're not illegal aliens.
No.
Under any definition. They're allowed to be there.
Yes.
In fact, sometimes they take people in when they have the parole program there, knowing that they're going to be on the parole program. They're not illegal aliens at all.
No.
But J.D. Vance doesn't like that. He calls them illegal aliens anyway.
And he has been ever since the 2024 campaign.
I was going to say, remember he did that with the Haitians in Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah.
He was referring to them as illegal aliens when
yeah.
they were just totally legal residents who are working officially in Ohio, right?
Yep.
So that's the game he's playing there. Neither of those scenarios are Democrats fighting for illegal immigrant healthcare. And even if they were, that's such a tiny part of what they're actually fighting for.
Yeah.
It's so disingenuous to say that's all it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so who actually wants hospitals demanding that before they treat somebody who's been shot or run over, that they prove that they're a documented person?
Apparently, J.D. Vance is one of
I
those
can
people.
just imagine, yes.
By the way, just in terms of cost, you're talking
Yeah.
1% of Medicaid goes to that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just such a small proportion. Anyway, but that's what they're talking about, Dave. When they're talking this illegal immigrant talking point, that's what they're referring to, just in case you cared. Then you got Trump, who we haven't even mentioned yet, who's... I read this on Planet America. I love this tweet. This is extraordinary. He's going out of his way to make up as many stupid items for the Democrats' wish list, clearly fake items, he possibly can. No one could take this seriously. The Democrats are threatening to shut down the government of the United States unless they can have over $1 trillion in new spending to continue free health care for illegal aliens, force taxpayers to fund transgender surgery for minors, have dead people on the Medicaid rolls, allow illegal alien criminals to steal billions of dollars in American taxpayer benefits, try to force our country to again open our borders to criminals and to the world, allow men to play in women's sports, and essentially create transgender operations for everybody. I read them in a row. I didn't edit that at all.
No.
They were all in a row.
Sometimes I think you're the only one who's actually reading his tweets.
Dave, this is not normal. Those are not the Democrats' demands. None of them are the Democrats' demands. And meanwhile, you got Russell Vought, who's been openly considering exploiting the shutdown to fire as many federal workers as he possibly can.
Yeah.
Much like Fetterman warned, by the way. Fetterman, the reason he's against it is because he said you're talking about autocracy and then you want to let the government loose on the OMB wood chipper. What are you doing? And that's what Russell Vaught's doing.
Senators from Virginia and Maryland, which is where the workers who are going to be sacked come from, their response was they're going to sack them anyway.
Yes.
Like why are we going to play along with the pretense that if we give them everything they want, then they won't sack people?
Yeah. Well, that's what Chuck Schumer said too. He said the bottom line is he's doing it anyway.
Yeah.
They've already cut 300,000 people. It will fall on him. He's the one doing the firings, not Democrats.
Yeah.
Others have noted there's only so many people you can sack. Only last week, the General Services Administration had to hire back a bunch of workers that Doge sacked.
Yes.
They couldn't do anything anymore. They'd sacked too many people. And the other important point for Schumer, and you mentioned, this is what you're referring to there, the Federal Unionist Network, which is the 35 public sector unions that represent federal workers, they backed the shutdown.
Yes.
So if the unions back the shutdown, you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as sacked workers go.
Yes.
But my point is, the reason I'm bringing all this up is this is all shit that's getting in the way of Thune's talking point.
Yes.
People don't even... people have got bigger problems than the fact they don't know who John Thune is.
Yeah.
They keep on hearing Trump talking about, I'm sorry, I have to sack a bunch of Democrats.
Yeah.
Like, just all this crap is getting in the way of what is a very straightforward, or should be a very straightforward talking point, and just messes it up. So that's another reason I think I agree with you that to the extent that matters, which it doesn't, the Republicans I think are going to get the blame. And also there keeps on being these quotes in the paper, like relishing the pain they're going to cause.
Yeah.
Like one anonymous administration official told Politico, quote, "We're going to extract maximum pain." Do you expect people to enjoy that? I don't know. Anyway.
Was that a line from Pete Hegseth's speech? Maximum pain, guys.
Yeah, that's right. That's your job. Yeah. And Russell Vought is clearly delighting in freezing New York infrastructure despite Schumer and Jeffries. Like he's just, the first thing is freeze $18 billion. They're just, anyway. The record's 35 days, Dave, for a shutdown. They're going to break it?
No, I don't think it's
you
going
don't
to
think
last.
so?
No.
You think it's going to be quick?
Yeah. But I could be wrong. This, in many ways, is different from previous shutdowns. It's been pointed out both sides have clear incentives to pursue shutdown this time, whereas in the past there's always been one side which, usually the side with the majority which has had an incentive not to pursue it. But no, this time they both have incentives to pursue it.
I think Trump's enjoying it.
Yeah.
I think he's having a good time. I mean, remember what Trump likes.
Yes.
He's literally, according to law, a dictator during the shutdown. Like, as in, this is it. His role is he gets to choose what he's going to spend money on, who he's going to get spent on. He gets to lord it over everyone. He gets to do whatever he likes. Congress has no role to play when the government is shut down. It is just the president. This is Trump time. So
you could argue that's not much different from how the last 8 months has been anyway.
Well, there's been courts in the way. There's no courts in the way now. Now he can just do whatever he likes.
Yeah.
It's going to run as smooth as a maglev train. He's loving it. Just does whatever he likes. Yeah, and it's just, and the Democrats, well, we haven't mentioned this, but the Democrats, this is not about healthcare.
No.
Right? I mean, I know that's what they're arguing for.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was awake and not unconscious when they spent 2 weeks ago, they argued in public about what they were going to use as their hostage. They were literally in public arguing about, well, we're going to have to shut this place down. What are we going to get for it? Are we going to go for healthcare? Are we going to go for tariffs? What are we going to go for here, guys? And they said, well, we poll really well with healthcare. Let's do healthcare. Okay, let's do healthcare then. They were saying this publicly. And so I don't think this is actually about healthcare. I mean, they do poll very well on healthcare. It's true. It's the only thing they poll super well on. But what this is about is about Chuck Schumer getting absolutely reamed back in March because he did nothing.
Yes.
And people are going, aren't you guys meant to be the resistance? What the hell's going on here? Like, you've been useless.
Yes.
You had one opportunity to do something and you did jack shit, mate.
Yes, yeah.
And this time he can't do that. This time he's got to provide some resistance. So the Democrats just need to put in a token resistance because otherwise their base are going to go absolutely feral. But when you do that, you need an issue, and this is a good issue. I'm not trashing the healthcare issue. It's a real issue. It's a good issue. They're fighting the good fight for something that's good. I'm just saying that's not the reason they're fighting for it. They're fighting for it because they have to fight for something, or they're going to piss people off. They piss off their base. So they've got to hang tough for a while until it really costs them. So
I don't see it being 35 days, but yeah.
The other thing I was going to say at Democrats, another reason they might hang tough a bit longer is because they've got an easy response to anyone trying to pressure them into folding, which is to say, Republicans, if they want to keep the government open, they don't need to recognize the filibuster. They can just have 50 votes. The proof of the pudding is they did that 2 weeks ago for judicial nominations.
That's right.
So they can just do it again.
Yeah.
If it's such a disaster, then they can just reopen the government by themselves. So it's a pretty good reason to hang tough for them. The only thing I would say about this whole topic, which I haven't mentioned in any other forum, is that, and yeah, I normally wouldn't mention this, but Trump, you never know. You never know. He might just do this. There's no reason the government needs to be shut down at all when they have budgetary standoffs.
No.
This never happened until the Jimmy Carter years.
Yeah.
And it's not because they always agreed.
No.
It's because Jimmy Carter's Attorney General decided that the government wasn't legally allowed to operate unless there was a budget in place.
That is such a Jimmy Carter
It's so
thing.
Carter. It's
Yeah.
so Carter. He's such a good fellow. Such a Boy Scout. But if you think about it for 5 seconds, there is no logic behind that at all.
No, there really isn't.
Right now, the government, 3/4 of the workers are working for nothing.
Yeah.
During a shutdown, then you pay them back afterwards. The law says they need to pay them back afterwards. The government's obligated to do it.
Yes.
So why can't you do the same thing for the entire government? Just have them work for nothing until you reach an agreement and you pay them back pay. Now you might go, Chaz, that's easy for you to say. You're not the one working for nothing. Well, right now they're getting nothing as well.
That's true.
They're just getting nothing at home. Right? It's just like they're no better off. And all it would take is someone like Trump. Trump's exactly the kind of person who would say, I don't acknowledge that we have to be in a shutdown situation. The government's no longer shut down. We're open. What are you going to do? It's just, we're just going to operate in debt until the budget gets passed.
Yeah.
Bang, shutdown's over. It's just a state of mind. It's literally, they can just click and shutdown's over.
That's true.
And no one's ever bothered to do that before. But that's just the kind of thing that I'd be interested to see what the Supreme Court would say if Trump did that. Who's going to take him to the Supreme Court for opening the government? It's the kind of thing that Trump would do if he thought the shutdown wasn't helping him.
That's a really good point.
He could just end it.
I'm just wondering whether he has considered that. I mean, as you say, like
He's got some crab lawyers.
Yeah, he's enjoying it at the moment. But given to give this administration its due, they do seem to have thought of every dodgy thing they could possibly do
really
and have quite a well-developed plan for doing it. So I'd be surprised if this hadn't been thought of. Yeah.
Okay, I've done enough on shutdown.
All right.
Dave, there are so many topics left, and you got half an hour. So which one do you want to do?
I want to talk about the Gaza plan.
Why don't we do that?
And I'm going to do something unusual here, which is to actually consult written material about this, because I want to go through the 20 points.
You can go through all the 20 points?
Yep.
Okay, let's do that.
Now, I will preface this by saying this plan has a lot of international support.
Including us.
Including Australia.
Yep.
More importantly, though, it's got support from Arab states.
Yep. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, Turkey, Egypt, Pakistan, Indonesia. I know that's not Arab, but Muslim.
Israel Netanyahu has agreed to it.
Yep.
More on that a little bit later.
Oh, and also China and Russia.
Yes.
They've collected the set. Basically, everyone agrees to this except for Hamas.
Yes.
But we'll get
well, I mean, Hamas hasn't rejected it yet.
Yeah, sure.
But anyway, let's just have a look at what the plan is. Okay. 1, Gaza will be a de-radicalized terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors.
Sounds good.
2, now this is what made this. I think this is when a lot of people heard this plan, they would have said, let's just take this. We're not going to get anything better. 2, Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza who have suffered more than enough. Okay, so that's taking away the idea that Israel can just take it over or that it will be developed into Gaza Redeville by Trump.
Yeah. Trump's first plan was to send them away.
Yeah. Okay, 3, if both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw to the agreed-upon line to prepare for a hostage release. During this time, all military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment, will be suspended, and battle lines will remain frozen until conditions are met for the complete staged withdrawal. Okay, so the end of the killing. It's been pointed out that talking about this war as if there are battle lines that can be frozen is really misrepresenting the nature of this war, which has basically been Israel battering the hell out of Gaza. But anyway, this is suggesting that all of that will stop. 4, within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages alive and deceased will be returned. So I think that it's the conventional understanding at the moment is that there are 48 of them and 20 are alive.
Yep. So now, usually people say that 72 hours wouldn't be enough for that to happen, but whatever. Yeah.
Okay. 5. Once all hostages are released, Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7th, including all women and children detained in that context. For every Israeli hostage whose remains are released, Israel will release the remains of 15 deceased Gazans.
It's a pretty standard trade-off.
Yes, but this is a good point to point out that as much as this plan looks like, whoa, it's 20 points, it's really detailed, people have been pointing out it's actually incredibly vague. And the first vague element of this is there are no names mentioned about who are these 250 life sentence prisoners going to be? Who exactly are these 1,700 Gazans going to be? Okay.
To be fair, that they do that a lot. Like that sounds like the kind of thing we've heard many times during the war.
During this war, maybe.
Yeah, but they talk about ratios.
Previous conflicts, there's actually been names mentioned.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. 6. Once all hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. This is where I think it gets very difficult for Hamas to actually accept this. Taking points 4 and 6 together, that's basically saying Hamas gives up all the hostages and they give up all their weapons.
Yes.
In other words, they give up any leverage that they have.
Complete mercy.
Any power that they have. Now, the idea that Hamas members who agree to decommissioning and peaceful coexistence will be given amnesty, are they going to believe that? I would not believe that if I were a member of Hamas. Are you seriously going to believe that if you were involved in October 7th, then there isn't going to be someone hunting you down for the rest of your life? Look at the way that Mossad hunted down for years the people who were involved in the Munich attacks in 1972.
Yeah, was it Operation Hand of God?
Yes.
Like that,
yeah. Like, I just would not be believing that if I were Hamas.
It's certainly a big leap of faith.
Yeah. But you're basically asking Hamas to give up all of its power and all of its leverage, okay? So this deal, I think it sounds very good to the Arab states. I think it will sound like for most of the Gazans on the ground, they just are going to want the killing to stop. And there have been open letters signed by Gazans. But once again, it's Hamas that's actually got to accept that. And I'm not sure that I see them accepting that.
But you also say this sounds great to the Arab states. Like, presumably Hamas ain't going to be hanging around Gaza if they're worried about getting killed.
Yes, yeah.
So some of those Arab states need to be taking Hamas.
Yeah, I don't think many of them are going to be very happy about that.
Yeah.
Okay. 7. Upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will immediately be sent into the Gaza Strip. At a minimum, aid quantities will be consistent with what was included in the 19th of January 2025 agreement regarding humanitarian aid, including rehabilitation of infrastructure, water, sewage, electricity, rehabilitation of hospitals and bakeries, and the entry of necessary equipment to remove rubble and roads. 8. Entry of distribution and aid into the Gaza Strip will proceed without interference from the two parties through the United Nations and its agencies, the Red Crescent, in addition to other international institutions not associated in any manner with either party. Opening the Rafah border crossing in both directions will be subject to the same mechanism implemented under the 19th of January agreement.
That's important.
Yes.
That's actually a big step for Israel.
Yes.
Because Israel likes to control the entries.
Yes.
Because they're worried about Hamas rearming.
This is also acknowledgement that aid has been actively impeded.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
true. And also...
Which Israel claims it hasn't been.
And it also requires Israel to rely on exactly the NGOs and the UN, the people that they just have no faith in.
This is why a lot of people are suggesting that Netanyahu's cabinet isn't going to accept this.
Yeah,
but there's more, though.
That is a big step for Israel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, 9. This is the paragraph that has been described by some people as surreal. Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people in Gaza. This committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts with oversight and supervision by a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace. There are quotation marks around that, which will be headed and chaired by President Donald J. Trump, with other members and heads of state to be announced, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. This body will set the framework and handle the funding for the redevelopment of Gaza until such time as the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform program, as outlined in various proposals, including President Trump's peace plan in 2020 and the Saudi-French proposal, and can securely and effectively take back control of Gaza. This body will call on best international standards to create modern and efficient governance that serves the people of Gaza and is conducive to attracting investment.
Oh, that sounds good, doesn't it? Okay, Dave, what do you want to say about that?
Apolitical. There is no such thing as an apolitical government. Okay?
Especially not when they become the figureheads for Trump and Blair.
Exactly. Yes.
Like that's a great way for these Palestinian experts they refer to become the most hated people in the country.
Yeah. So Tony Blair's been involved with these attempts at non-political governance in the Middle East before, between 2005 and 2014, and it failed badly. He's not going to be seen as a credible figure in the Middle East. I suppose the most meaningful thing this is saying is eventually control goes to the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah.
Right? Once it's implemented, once again, getting back to the vagueness, until such time as it's completed its reform program.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the judge of whether it's completed its reform program? The Palestinian Authority has all kinds of problems.
Yes.
It's headed by a guy who is older than Joe Biden. It was rejected in an election in Gaza in 2006 and has never been very popular in Gaza.
They've refused to have an election on the West Bank because they're scared that they'll get voted out for Hamas.
In favour of Hamas.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
They're notoriously corrupt.
Yes.
The Palestinian Authority.
Yeah. These are problems that Tony Blair is not going to fix.
And they're hated by the Gazans before they've even begun.
Yes.
Imagine when they're tied up with Tony Blair.
Yeah.
He doesn't make people more popular.
No.
Yeah, so what happens then if the Palestinian Authority aren't up for it? What happens? Just perpetual occupation.
Well,
by Tony Blair.
Well, yeah, by Tony Blair. Okay, we'll come back to this. 10. By this point, someone had decided that the word Trump didn't appear in this document enough. A Trump economic development plan to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created by convening a panel of experts who have helped birth some of the thriving modern miracle cities in the Middle East. Many thoughtful investment proposals and exciting development ideas have been crafted by well-meaning international groups and will be considered to synthesize the security and governance frameworks to attract and facilitate these investments that will create jobs, opportunity, and hope for Gaza. Absolute empty nonsense.
Yeah, that was nothing. I actually tuned out.
That was absolutely nothing.
I just started playing Minesweeper.
Yeah. 11.
Seems appropriate, yeah.
A special economic zone will be established with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated with participating countries.
Always tariffs.
Got to throw the word tariffs in there. Okay, number 12, this one's pretty important. No one will be forced to leave Gaza, and those who wish to leave will be free to do so and free to return.
That's huge.
We will encourage people to stay and offer them the opportunity to build a better Gaza. So this is once more rejecting any idea of that it will be turned into an American or Israeli enclave.
That's great, and that contradicts exactly what the Israeli conservatives want to happen.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, 13. Another point that's going to be a bit difficult for Hamas. Hamas and other factions agree not to have any role in the governance of Gaza directly, indirectly, or in any form.
How are you going to do that?
All military, terror, and offensive infrastructure, including tunnels and weapon production facilities, will be destroyed and not rebuilt. There'll be a process of demilitarization of Gaza under the supervision of independent monitors, which will include placing weapons permanently beyond use through an agreed process of decommissioning and supported by an internationally funded buyback and reintegration program, all verified by the independent monitors. New Gaza. Okay, we've given it a new name now. New Gaza will be fully committed to building a prosperous economy and to peaceful coexistence with their neighbours. Okay, so obviously the most important part of this is not only has Hamas given up all of its arms and leverage, it agrees not to participate in the governance at all.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that.
I think that's going to be a hard sell. As one analysis of this that I've read is it just completely ignores the extent to which Hamas is interwoven with Palestinian life in Gaza. But this last sentence is interesting. New Gaza will be fully committed to building a prosperous economy and to peaceful coexistence with their neighbours. They're starting to talk about it as a separate entity. You will have noticed so far no mention of the West Bank. There's not going to be any mention of the West Bank anywhere else in this document. They're talking about New Gaza as its own entity, not really as a future part of a Palestinian state along with the West Bank.
Which is weird because Trump has explicitly promised to not let Israel annex the West Bank. So what are they planning to do with the West Bank?
Well, I think that the silence in here, plus the new Israeli plans that have been announced for splitting it in two, I think that tells you what's going on. Okay. A guarantee will be provided by regional partners to ensure that Hamas and the factions comply with their obligations and that New Gaza poses no threat to its neighbours or its people. As has been widely pointed out, no Arab neighbour has volunteered for this role. 15. The United States will work with Arab and international partners to develop a temporary international stabilization force to immediately deploy in Gaza. The ISF will train and provide support to vetted Palestinian police forces in Gaza and will consult with Jordan and Egypt, who have extensive experience in this field. It is true that Egypt is already training future Palestinian police. This force will be the long-term internal security solution. The ISF will work with Israel and Egypt to help secure border areas, along with newly trained Palestinian police forces. It is critical to prevent munitions from entering Gaza and to facilitate the rapid and secure flow of goods to rebuild and revitalize Gaza. A deconfliction mechanism will be agreed upon by the parties.
It feels like what they're just describing there is the UN, except for it's not the UN.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. Maybe the other Arab nations are supporting this, right?
Yeah.
So maybe they're up for it. But it just seems to me like a fairly thankless task.
Even though they did suggest that UN aid agencies would be allowed in, it's also been pointed out that this is exactly the sort of thing that the UN should be doing. The UN has
they're describing the UN without saying
expertise
the UN.
and political authority to do, but they're not mentioning the UN.
And if you have Jordan and Egypt and countries like that, establish security.
Yep.
And the Palestinian Authority isn't stepping up.
Yep.
And this becomes the new occupation. And you start getting, it might not be Hamas, but you just get the new Hamas for the new Gaza forming and just starting to a few suicide bombs around some of their troops. How long are they going to hang around in this situation? Because that seems like a thankless task.
16. This is a big one. Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza. That's already been heavily implied, but this makes it explicit.
That's a big one.
As the ISF establishes control and stability, the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, will withdraw based on standards, milestones, and timeframes linked to demilitarization that will be agreed upon between the IDF, ISF, the guarantors, and the United States, with the objective of a secure Gaza that no longer poses a threat to Israel, Egypt, or its neighbours. Practically, the IDF will progressively hand over the Gaza territory it occupies to the ISF according to an agreement they make with the Transitional Authority until they are withdrawn completely for Gaza, save for a security perimeter presence that will remain until Gaza is properly secure from any resurgent terror threat. Under what circumstances do you think Netanyahu's government will determine that Israel is now completely safe from any resurgent terror threat from Gaza and that the troops can be withdrawn?
That does sound like a recipe for continuing the occupation.
Yes. 17. In the event Hamas delays or rejects this proposal, the above, including the scaled-up aid operation, will proceed in the terror-free areas handed over from the IDF to the ISF. Once again, I think it will, it'll be Netanyahu's decision about what counts as a terror-free area, and I'm guessing there won't be many of them. 18. An interfaith dialogue process will be established based on the values of tolerance and peaceful coexistence to try and change mindsets and narratives of Palestinians and Israelis by emphasizing the benefits that can be derived from peace.
Give peace a chance, folks.
Yeah. 19. While Gaza redevelopment advances and when the PA reform program is faithfully carried out, the conditions may finally be in place for a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood, which we recognise as the aspiration of the Palestinian people. Interesting use of the word "we" here, because Netanyahu has made it very clear that he does not recognise that as a legitimate aspiration of the Palestinian people, and he's a moderate as far as his own cabinet goes on this issue. 20. The United States will establish a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians to agree on a political horizon for peaceful and prosperous coexistence. Okay.
Wonderful.
So in terms of what this plan has going for it, the fact that it actually says Gaza will be rebuilt for Gazans and not occupied by Israel.
No annexing, no sending people away. People can come and go as they please.
And the fact that it says the war will end, I think a lot of Gazans would accept this as this is the best thing that we are going to get.
And while there's all kinds of question marks about security arrangements, there's no question mark about investment. That's going to be investment. There will be investment. You can be sure of that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's the victor imposing victor's terms. I think anyone would be very naive to believe this will ever lead to a Palestinian state. But, you know, as a lot of commentary has basically said, the only thing worse than accepting this is going to be rejecting it because Trump made it very clear. He said if Hamas rejects it or if they accept it but then clearly aren't intending to fulfill it, he will give Netanyahu the green light to finish the job.
Israel would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas, but I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace. And if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do.
And Netanyahu is only too happy to accept that.
Yes.
That job. Let me ask you, do you think Netanyahu wants Hamas to agree to this or not? Do you think he's hankering to finish the job or invoke commas or what?
Look, his main priority is political survival. If Hamas doesn't agree with it, then that allows him to continue the war that his cabinet wants to continue, or at least the Smotrich and Ben-Gvir want him to continue, right? Because their position is the war just has to continue until Hamas is annihilated. I think that this, in terms of, you know, the negatives of this, we've already talked about quite a lot of them. I mean, it is incredibly one-sided.
Yes.
There's, you know, it may allow for the survival of people in Gaza, but there's no mechanism for what you would call justice or really any kind of political future. We're talking about this technocratic system of government where Tony Blair is, I don't know, going to decide how the garbage is picked up. This is, you know, far short of what Palestinian aspirations actually are. But I think the terms in here make it very, very difficult for Hamas to accept. And some of the reporting that's come out today is the Hamas leadership is divided on it, in that, yes, there are Hamas political leaders in both Turkey and Qatar who can see benefits to agreeing to this, but persuading the Hamas military leadership in Gaza, and especially the younger fighters who have just joined, that now's the time to give up, is going to be a very, very, very difficult sell. And yeah, then there are serious questions over whether Netanyahu's cabinet would actually agree to this.
That was my next question.
It seems to contain things that are completely contradictory to what people like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir have been demanding.
Yeah.
Now, it's possible that Netanyahu can point out that the terms of this are so vague that there are so many things in the end that are basically up to Israeli discretion, that even though it says Israel is not going to occupy Gaza, there are so many pretexts for there's terror activity going on here, therefore we need to, under the terms of this agreement, that I think that he'll be able to tell them, we'll be able to keep the war going.
I think for most of the critical questions, Israel can string us along for a while under this plan.
Yep.
There's one area
where
it just explicitly contradicts what Smotrich wants, which is there is no wriggle room at all when it comes to who is the group that they are going to be taking the next government from.
Yes.
And that's the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah.
They almost the only group they name in this entire 20 points is a Palestinian Authority.
Yep.
And that is a drop-dead position for Smotrich.
Absolutely.
No Palestinian Authority.
Yeah.
So that is the one massive contradiction, which I don't know if they're going to... At the end of the day, it might not matter because, I mean, I don't know. I don't understand Israeli politics enough to say this is the case or not. It's possible that Yair Lapid and Benny Gantz will go, you know what, we're going to support Netanyahu for this plan. If we're doing this plan, Smotrich can go to hell.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be an election in a couple of months anyway.
Yeah.
let's just take it to the election.
Election in a few months anyway has been cited as another reason why Hamas might not agree. So if we just hang on, we can change the government. Yeah.
On Yair Lapid, I saw a quote from him. I do keep my eyes open for what he has to say because he tends to be a sensible-ish kind of fellow, at least in Israeli politics.
Yeah.
He said, I read a piece from him where he said the biggest threat to the proposal are not those who might outright reject it, but those who say yes, but.
Yeah.
And of Netanyahu, he said, he usually says yes in Washington when he stands in front of cameras in the White House and feels like a groundbreaking statesman, and the but when he returns to Israel and the base reminds him who's boss. The idea of annexing Gaza was a crazy idea from the very beginning, and this plan saves us not only from a destructive political and security situation, but also from the attempt to drag us into becoming a backward and angry Sparta, poor and isolated in the world. We need to say yes to the plan without buts and work towards its immediate implementation despite all the obstacles. That's what he had to say.
Yeah.
It's I'm no expert on this, so
yeah. So that's the plan. Trump was typically vague about how long Hamas had to make its decision. I suspect we're going to see something soon, like before the next PEP.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing.
Well, they said 3 days originally, didn't they?
I think 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. I think we're past 3 or 4 days now, aren't we?
Yeah. But I mean, there were reports today coming out that, they're probably going to insist on some kind of revisions, but that there was a surprising amount that they might actually agree to.
Might be a yes but situation. Yeah.
Might be a yes but situation.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay, Dave, you got 6 minutes to talk about anything you want.
Okay. Look, the final thing that I want to talk about is the shooting in Grand Blanc.
Go for it.
And one of the things that is really disturbing about this is how quickly it vanished from the news.
Oh, I wonder why.
Yeah. So
we'll talk about this now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is in Grand Blanc, Michigan.
Yeah.
On a Sunday morning in a Mormon chapel, when a service was taking place, a gunman rammed his pickup truck into the doors of the chapel, his pickup truck adorned with American flags. He opened fire on the worshippers inside with an assault weapon, and police don't quite know how he did it, but it appears he somehow managed to set the building on fire.
Yeah.
And all told, 4 people died.
Yes.
And he was killed by police at the scene. Trump's immediate response to this was to say, this is yet another targeted attack on Christians.
Yes.
This violence must stop.
Yes.
So that really fits his culture war framing of, Christians are under attack from the radical. He didn't explicitly say the radical left, but that seemed to be the suggestion.
I don't know if you said it. They were a Mormon church.
Yes. Yeah. They're a Mormon church.
Yeah.
So, Latter-day Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is Mormons.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so the attacker was killed, but details about him emerged pretty quickly from talking to people who knew him around Grand Blanc. So this was not something that anybody expected. He seemed like a fairly normal, upstanding member of the community. He was dedicated to his daughter and her rare hyperinsulin condition that he had to deal with.
He's not in Antifa?
No, he's an ex-Marine.
Yes.
And social media posts posted by his mother showed him wearing a T-shirt that said Trump 2020, make liberals cry again.
Yes, re-elect Trump 2020, make liberals cry again.
And he had a Trump-Pence sign in his front yard.
As of June 2025, he had another Trump sign in his front yard.
Yeah.
His pickup truck had 2 American flags displayed in its bed.
Yes.
And he signed 2 petitions a few years ago. One for Unlock Michigan against Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer's pandemic restrictions.
Yes.
And an anti-abortion petition by Right to Life Michigan.
Yep.
So not really all that Antifa.
Not your Antifa type. But also, most relevantly, interviews with people who knew him showed he had a very specific animus towards Mormons.
Yes.
And as soon as I heard Trump's statement, it really annoyed me because of the fact that I am so aware of the specific animus towards Mormons that exists in the United States, having done quite a lot of research on it. Okay? So before I get to that, just the things that his friends were saying were he lived in Utah for a while, where during that period he had a methamphetamine problem, and he was in a relationship with an LDS woman, and there seems to be some suggestion he was thinking perhaps of joining the religion, but
converting, yes.
But the that relationship came to an end.
She dumped him.
Yes, and that seems to have been what began the animus towards Mormons.
Yes.
So personal circumstances began it, but then the kinds of things that he was saying to people, and a lot of this comes from just the weekend before, there was a city councilman who was doing some political canvassing who visited him and was met at the door with this increasing sort of escalating series of questions about what this guy thinks about Mormons. Now, remember, we're in Michigan. We're not in Utah.
It's the Michigan Corner.
I can't believe it took me this long.
There are definitely Mormons in Michigan. I knew many Mormons in Michigan. I hung out in Mormon studies groups in Michigan. George Romney, Mitt Romney's father, was from Michigan, and actually a member of the Romney family is part of the same stake, which is like the collection of wards that church that was victimized was involved in.
Oh, amazing.
So, but still, it's not like a really commonplace topic of discussion. You don't expect as a city councilman to turn up to somebody's door and they just start spouting stuff about Mormons and Joseph Smith, who's the founder of Mormonism. It was noticeably a very specific animus against Mormons. Okay. And his friends were saying he described Mormons as the Antichrist, described them as wanting to take over the world, and they would respond with like, why are you telling us about this? No one cares about Mormons. But what I'm saying is, even though it might have been
trying to take over the world,
well,
not doing a very good job of it.
Even though it might have been his personal circumstances that led to this hatred, the point is there's a deep well of conspiracist suspicion about Mormons that he was tapping into that goes all the way back to the foundation of Mormonism. Okay. I wrote an article about this in The Conversation, which we'll put in the homework because I'm not going to have time to explain it in full here. Or you could consult my book, Religious Persecution and Political Order in the United States, chapters 3 or 4, or my 2014 article in Electoral Studies, or my 2016 article in Public Opinion Quarterly. These are all linked to in the
homework?
In the Conversation article.
Oh, okay.
But this is just to let you know that I know what I'm talking about on this issue. People feared the political power of Joseph Smith, who was the founder of Mormonism. He had a lot of charismatic authority, over his followers. He also gathered a militia, because this is the middle of the 19th century. People are armed, and when you're a religious minority surrounded by hostile neighbours, you need to be armed. So this led to a lot of incidents of violence, usually instigated by enemies of the Mormons, sometimes instigated by Mormons themselves. They were forced out of Missouri by an extermination order that was issued by the governor. And embarrassingly, they only realized in 1978 that order was still on the books in Missouri. It's been removed since then. Joseph Smith was assassinated in Illinois after they moved there by an anti-Mormon militia. The rest of the church fled to Utah, and then there was like decades of federal pressure on them to abandon polygamy and submit to the authority of the federal government. This included, at one point, a war. It wasn't much of a war, it was known as the Utah War, but it did feature a massacre that was perpetrated by a Mormon militia. So the point is, history of violence and conspiracist suspicion. And it might seem weird to think Mormons are taking over the world, but as David Bryan Davis pointed out in this fantastic article in 1960, there was this sort of undercurrent of conspiracism in the United States that could attach itself to any minority. It attached itself to Freemasons. It attached itself to Catholics. Anybody who was seen as suspicious and secretive and somehow outsider, and there was some suspicion about the amount of power they had, it could attach themselves to this minority. These days, you most commonly see it attached to Jews and Muslims.
Yeah.
And as much as those groups have their disagreement with each other, one of the big things that they have in common is what one author has called conspiratorial racialization. That is, that what people see as the essence of those two groups is the power that they supposedly have and the ambition that they supposedly have to take over Western populations. Now, anti-Mormonism is nowhere near as widespread, but there are people who go in for it, including this gunman, judging by the kind of language that he was using.
I only have one question.
Yep.
That Mormon war you described?
Yes.
Were they all clean-shaven?
No. They were certainly not.
What a crap war.
They were most certainly not clean-shaven.
Okay, go on.
Yes. So this was not just an attack on Christians. As I pointed out in my 2014 article, Mormons really get it from both sides of the culture war.
Yeah.
On the one hand, a lot of conservative Christians refuse to accept Mormons as Christians. Mormons regard themselves as Christians, but there are some significant differences between LDS doctrine and what you might call Orthodox Christian doctrine. They have another religious scripture which they regard as equal in authority to the Bible. Their founder is a prophet. They've got a different idea about the relationship between humans and God. So a lot of Christians just don't accept them as Christians. I put some survey questions on the AEST back in 2014, I think it was, that found that when you remove don't know responses, basically 51% of Americans regard Mormons as Christians and 49% of them don't. Some people that doesn't matter. For others, it's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are a lot of liberals and secular-minded people who are very wary of Mormons.
Yeah.
Between 2007 and 2012, not surprisingly, the number of liberals who said that they would never vote for a Mormon shot up significantly thanks to the candidacy of Mitt Romney. But it wasn't just that, actually. It was also Mormon advocacy against same-sex marriage, especially the role that they played in Prop 8 in California. Younger peppers may be surprised to learn that as recently as 2008, the election that got Barack Obama elected, California passed a ballot proposition banning same-sex marriage. And that was Mormons were seen as unusually effective advocates in that. That pissed off a lot of liberals and secular-minded people, and there were protests outside Mormon houses of worship and some acts of vandalism and arson as well. So Mormons have received hostility from both sides of the culture war. Now, there's a world of difference between just feeling that you wouldn't want a Mormon president or enjoying something like the Book of Mormon and actually committing violence, though. I think that to be driven to violence, you actually have to have some kind of conspiratorial worldview about Mormons. It's not just a matter of disliking them.
Especially violence against random people.
Yeah. And there was an article in the Deseret News in 2019, which is an LDS-owned newspaper, which pointed out, so the FBI been keeping track of hate crimes against Mormons since 2015, pointed out that those were increasing, but that just hate crime in general in America was increasing. In typical Mormon fashion, they said, yes, we're worried about what's happening to us, but this is dwarfed by what is happening to Jews and Muslims. So I went into the FBI's hate crime tracker, which I was amazed that still exists, that's still up there. There were 160 instances of hate crimes against Mormons over the last 10 years, 25 of which were in Utah and 23 of which were in California. This shooting, though, is by far the most serious one. There was actually another shooting in a Mormon house of worship in 2018 in Nevada, but that was determined that was a personal issue by one Mormon against another. So this is very serious and very tragic. But the other thing that Trump's statement about this is an attack on Christians, the other thing that elided was that there are all kinds of houses of worship that have been turned into sites of mass shootings. There was the Sikh temple in 2012. There was the Tree of Life synagogue in 2018. There was the Black Evangelical Church in South Carolina where Dylan Roof carried out 9 murders. The worst one was in a white evangelical church in Texas where 26 people killed in a mass shooting. There was a study done that was reported in The Conversation yesterday. There have been, until 2024, 487 homicides in places of worship in the United States, 3/4 of them by firearm. Now, clearly this is a problem of violence that goes beyond violence directed at any particular religious group. And, I mean, I'm not suggesting that killings are more common in houses of worship than they are in other places. They're not. As this article pointed out, they're rare. But in a country founded on religious freedom, there is something very shocking about them. Not that it's any more shocking than, killings in schools, but I suppose what I'm saying is the prevalence of killing in houses of worship just points at the problem of gun violence in the United States and how big it is.
It's fair enough. I must admit, I hadn't even thought about it in those terms. I was thinking about it in terms of partisan terms, in terms of Trump clearly trying to line up an attack on the left.
Yeah.
And it didn't come off, and then it just disappears.
It did.
Let's never mention it again.
It did disappear.
Can I just say one positive thing about, as you say, the Mormons, they're a pretty special group. And I'm not sure if you heard about this, but Dave Butler, who's a Mormon who's not part of the Grand Blanc community, started a GoFundMe for the shooter's widow and child.
Wow. Yeah.
They've raised more than $150,000 so far.
Yeah.
He wrote, James teaches us that pure religion and undeified before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction.
Yeah.
The purpose of this Give, Send, Go is to do that. Every donation will go to help provide for the Sanford family daily needs, provide for ongoing medical treatment, and create some stability in a time of heartbreak and upheaval. Apparently the comments on that GoFundMe are mostly in exactly the right spirit too, full of prayers and Bible verses. This is a bonus grateful for me. That's extraordinary group of people. Good on them.
You don't have to agree with the politics of Mormonism, but there are many things that are quite extraordinary about them as a religious group. And I always enjoyed spending time with the Mormon community in Michigan, so I'm thinking of them now.
Thank you very much, Dave.
My pleasure.
You're out of here. I'll see you next week
for
the final Saturday special.
Yes.
Maybe. And I'll see you guys after the White Flash. We'll be talking James Comey. Welcome to the other side of the White Flash. This is Chaz Unleashed with Lucky.
Hi, Peppers.
Hello there. We are racing through my 9 pages of notes on the Comey indictment.
All right, ready, set, go.
Let's go. Look, where we left off, at the indictment at the end of the last last PEP. And what's happened since then? It was lodged by someone who was unlikely to be doing a great job of it, which was Lindsay Halligan. She's a person whose entire resume consisted of being a beauty queen for a few years.
And an insurance lawyer.
Lawyer for a few more years. And then doing odd jobs for Trump, like trying to remove slavery references from the Smithsonian. And it didn't get off to a good start after she tried to take this charge. We know the first thing that she received when she took over as U.S. Attorney was a detailed memo from her underlings telling her to not prosecute James Comey. They recommended she decline to bring perjury and obstruction charges because DOJ guidelines say you're not supposed to bring charges unless you can prove a defendant will more likely not be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by an unbiased trier of fact, and that the conviction will be upheld on appeal. And in this case, the memo said, it's a bullshit charge. We can't make the case. Apparently, even Halligan's deputy shared that view, and so did Todd Blanche, and so did Pam Bondi. It's not often that Pam Bondi is telling you to not do what Trump suggests you should do, but in this case, she was. Not only did Bondi and Blanche not back it, but they have clearly authorized someone to leak to newspapers that they don't back it, which is an interesting bit of dissent on their behalf. You don't hear that often. Halligan decided to pursue the charges anyway because, let's face it was her third day on the job. She's there for only one reason, so she just went through with it. Exactly.
Poor thing.
Yeah, I do.
Almost.
I mean, she did take the job, but I do feel a little bit sorry for her life. Anyway, third day of the job, she presented 3 charges to a grand jury. They rejected one of the charges. They accepted 2 of them. It's always unheard of for a grand jury to reject any charges.
Yes.
So that was extraordinary. But they did indict on 2 of the 3 counts sought by her. 1 count of making false statements, 1 count of obstruction of justice for the same statements. Only 14 of the 23 grand jurors voted for those charges. You need a majority. You don't need unanimous for a grand jury. You just need a majority. So she needed a minimum 12 of the 23 grand jurors voting. She got 14. So she just got over the line.
Yeah. Wow.
Dubious charges. I think it really does say something about the integrity of the process, that the first person who knew about the results was, guess who?
Trump.
Who is the number one newsbreaker on the planet right now in fucked up news? Laura Loomer.
Oh my.
She is the one who broke the news. Lindsay Halligan.
Of Fox hosts. Okay.
No. We're way past them now, mate.
Oh my goodness.
The indictments were only signed by Halligan, though, which is not usually the case. Usually you have a whole team of prosecutors signing these indictments. It's a sign that no one in her office wanted to be associated with these charges at all. They just wanted nothing to do with it. And then she accidentally submitted the 3rd rejected item to the judge as well as the other 2. And Halligan said, when the judge said, what's this about? Well, why have you submitted a rejected indictment charge? Like she said, I didn't see that first document. It was an accident. I didn't mean to give that to you. And he said, well, it has your signature on it. And her response is, I'm going to quote her now, well, okay. That's a good comeback.
Lindsay, if you ever want a job doing the nodding on PEP, it sounds like we have the same qualifications.
She's got all the skills. There is another potential issue. It isn't clear that Halligan has been validly appointed as a temporary occupant of her role as U.S. Attorney of East Virginia.
Well, okay.
According to some interpretations of the law, I'm not going to go into details because I don't have the time, but according to some interpretations of the law, Halligan might not actually be occupying the position that she's theoretically occupying, and a judge might just reject her. And then, since no one else will prosecute these charges, she could have an indictment and Comey turn up for the trial.
And then no prosecution.
And there's no prosecution.
Oh, he'd love that.
That's a real chance. We'll see about that. It's a bit up in the air at this point. Anyway, Halligan, not the best. In terms of reactions to the indictment, you got Pam Bondi, who said, "No one's above the law." Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case.
The case that I didn't want to prosecute.
That one. Kash Patel said, "For far too long, previous corrupt leadership and their enablers weaponized federal law enforcement, damaging once proud institutions and severely eroding public trust. Every day we continue to fight to earn that trust back, and under my leadership, this FBI will confront the problem head on. Nowhere was this politicization of law enforcement more blatant than during the Russiagate hoax. A disgraceful chapter in history we continue to investigate and expose. Everyone, especially those in positions of power, will be held to account, no matter their perch. No one is above the law." I hate that response. And the reason I hate it is because Patel says he's fighting to earn the public's trust back, right? And in this case, he is blatantly misleading them with that tweet.
Yeah.
As we are about to see, this case has nothing to do with the politicization of Russiagate at all. It has nothing to do with Russiagate, full stop. It's possible Comey is being charged for fighting back against Russiagate. It's possible. More likely, though, it's got nothing to do with Russiagate. Zero. So this is as good as an outright lie from Kash Patel. Then we've got James Comey's reaction.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump. But we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial.
That's classic Comey right there. He didn't even need a seashell. Nice seashell in sight. Well done. That's interesting, though, because Comey seems to be calling directly for a quick trial. Does he mean that? We'll see, because he may well not need to have a trial at all. If they appeal to a judge that he's been selectively or vindictively prosecuted, the judge might just dismiss the charges without a trial. And we will get to that. It's dodgy indictment. And the evidence for that starts with Trump's immediate reaction, which was, "Justice in America! One of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to is James Comey, the former corrupt head of the FBI. Today, he was indicted by a grand jury on 2 felony counts for various illegal and unlawful acts. He's been so bad for our country for so long and is now at the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against our nation. Make America great again!"
One of the worst people our country has ever been exposed to.
Jeffrey
Dahmer, Ted Bundy.
Jim Comey. So, did that to you seem like Trump could have it in for Jim Comey?
I'd say jury's out, but I don't know if we'll get to a jury.
I'm not sure if there'll be a prosecutor standing in front of that jury, Lucky. Look, maybe he's got a little in for Comey. We'll come back to that. How about the details of the indictment? The actual indictment details. Look, there aren't many of them. This is literally, what I'm about to read you, is the entirety of the indictment for the first charge. On or about September 30, 2020, in the Eastern District of Virginia, the defendant, James B. Comey Jr., did willfully and knowingly make a material, false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement in a matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch of the government of the United States by falsely stating to a U.S. senator during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing that he, James B. Comey Jr., had not authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning Person 1. That statement was false because, as James B. Comey Jr. then and there knew, he in fact had authorized Person 3 to serve as an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning Person 1. Charge over. There's even less on the second charge, but it repeats bits of the first charge. Right. So that's all I'm going to read. I mean, that's a paragraph. It's not even close to a page.
That's the whole charge?
That's the whole charge. And the second one's shorter.
Sounds like we're getting to the bottom of Russia Gate.
So there is no attempt to provide any detail, any evidence, nothing. Remember those Trump indictments? They went for like 100 pages worth of evidence.
Yes.
We don't even know for a fact who person 3 is. We know who person 1 is. That's Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Because in the third charge that was rejected, that we saw because the idiot presented the judge.
That's gold.
Yeah, there was in that one, the grand jury, there was a clue in that one. So we know that person 1 was Hillary Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
But as we're about to see, who person 3 is makes a huge difference to how this case proceeds. We do know one thing, though. Comey's supposed crimes are ancient. So the administration is trying to work around the statute of limitations, which is 5 years.
Of course.
They're trying to piggyback off later testimony. So on September 30, 2020, 5 years ago, in the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, Ted Cruz and Comey had this exchange.
All right, let's shift to another topic. On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never. He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
And that testimony occurred 5 years ago on Tuesday.
Week. Yeah.
So it was just within the 5-year statute of limitations for a false statements charge if that statement was false. So if James Comey was lying back in 2017, 8 years ago, and he repeated in 2020 that what he said in 2017 was true, then that could restart the clock for false statement charges as of 2020. That's what the indictment's trying to do. So they have to prove that what Comey said back in 2017 was false and that Comey was continuing to lie about it knowingly in 2020. That's what they need to prove to get around the statute of limitations. By the way, note the location of the testimony that we just played you. That was 2020, so Comey was testifying from home in Virginia.
Yeah.
Because the lockdown. That's why this case has been prosecuted by a U.S. attorney for East Virginia and not Washington, D.C. Because the crime was committed in East Virginia,
where
his home.
Wow.
Right.
Interesting.
So back to the great mystery of this indictment. Who is person 3? Reminder of the question asked about person 3 from the indictment. Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? Comey responded, no. The indictment says this statement was false because, as James B. Comey Jr. then and there knew, he in fact had authorized person 3 to serve as an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning Hillary Clinton. So, firstly, Andrew McCabe is option 1. He was Comey's deputy director of the FBI at the time. McCabe did leak to newspapers. He claimed to the Inspector General that Comey gave him permission to leak after the fact, after he'd done the leaking. That's option 1. Option 2 is Daniel Richman, who is a Columbia law professor who was a friend and advisor to James Comey. Comey has admitted previously to using Richmond as a go-between with reporters after he was fired in 2017. This is James Comey testifying about this to Susan Collins in a hearing.
And finally, did you show copies of your memos to anyone outside of the Department of Justice?
Yes.
And to whom did you show copies?
I asked, President tweeted on Friday after I got fired that I better hope there's not tapes. I woke up in the middle of the night on Monday night, because it didn't dawn on me originally, that there might be corroboration for our conversation. There might be a tape. And my judgment was I needed to get that out into the public square. And so I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel. And so I asked a close friend of mine to do it.
And was that Mr. Wittes?
No, no.
Who was that?
A good friend of mine who's a professor at Columbia Law School.
Thank you.
Now, we know Richmond was subpoenaed by prosecutors last week, the week before last, although apparently the results weren't very encouraging. That's what we know. Now, are any of those two possible indictments viable? Andrew McCabe, let's start with him. Comey's deputy, Andrew McCabe, has said Comey approved of him leaking information to the press for an October 30 Wall Street Journal article called FBI in Internal Feud Over Hillary Clinton Probe. Note, that's about Hillary Clinton, which was part of the indictment. Is an article as well which helped Trump before the election. It helped him by confirming the FBI was investigating Hillary Clinton. Trump liked hearing that before the election. Going, oh, look, dirty Hillary, corrupt Hillary. Ah. McCabe and Comey had a conversation about the leak the day after the article came out. That's a fact. Both McCabe and Comey agree on that. But according to a 2018 Justice Department Inspector General's report, McCabe lacked candor on 4 separate matters. And one of those matters was the conversation he says he had with Comey the day after that leak. According to McCabe, he told the Inspector General he told Comey about him, McCabe, leaking for the article. And he said Comey approved of the leak. According to McCabe, Comey, quote, did not react negatively, just kind of accepted it. McCabe also claimed that Comey thought it was a good idea that they presented this information to the media. Now, according to Comey, he said the Inspector General, he told the Inspector General that McCabe definitely did not tell him that he was the leaker. Comey said, I don't remember exactly how, but I remember some formal fashion, and it could have been like, can you believe this crap? How does this stuff get out? Kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. But I took from whatever communication we had that he wasn't involved in it. Just as an aside, the vagueness of Comey's recollection rings true to me.
Okay.
When you're trying to remember things that happened 3 years ago, 4 years ago, conversations.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You're going to be really vague.
Yes.
McCabe is one who's suspiciously precise, in my view. But anyway, the report concluded, the IG report concluded, while the only direct evidence regarding this McCabe-Comey conversation was the recollections of the two participants, there is considerable circumstantial evidence, and we concluded the overwhelming weight of that evidence supported Comey's version of the conversation. Indeed, none of the circumstantial evidence provides support for McCabe's account of the discussion. Rather, we found that much of the available evidence undercut McCabe's claim. One of the main pieces of evidence that they have cited against McCabe is that he kept changing his story. Earlier on, McCabe, under oath, denied being involved with the leak at all. And he said he didn't know who was responsible. But then he changed his mind and admitted it was him. That's all under oath. Now, you may or may not agree with the Inspector General's conclusion, but there's certainly no evidence, at least in the report, that Comey was lying. In fact, at one point, the DOJ was so sure that McCabe was the liar in this scenario, they tried to prosecute him for false statements. Those same false statements that they are now turning around and potentially trying to use as the only evidence against James Comey's honesty. If they did that, that would be strange, I feel. But they may be doing that. We're not sure because we don't know that Andrew McCabe is person 3. Most importantly, though, if Andrew McCabe is person 3, everything I just told you is irrelevant to the charge.
Why's that?
That's a great question, Lockie. Glad you asked. Because even if you believe McCabe, what did he tell us? He says he didn't talk to Comey about the leak until after he had leaked. The report said McCabe told us that he did not recall telling Comey prior to publication of the October 30 article that he intended to authorize the leak, although he said it was possible he did. So you can't say that Comey had authorized anyone to leak. That's exactly what Ted Cruz asked him.
Trying to get him
Did
for.
you authorize anyone to leak? And he said no. So even if McCabe is telling the truth, Comey still didn't lie to Ted Cruz, and the charges fail. If Andrew McCabe is person 3, James Comey definitely did not lie to Ted Cruz.
Wow.
How about Richmond? How about if he's a person 3? ABC News insists that person 3 is actually Daniel Richmond. I mean, ABC America. Richmond provided information to reporters about an FBI investigation connected to Hillary Clinton. And while the indictment says that person 3 was at the FBI, Richmond was an unpaid special government employee during Comey's last 2 years at the FBI. So he might be the person. There was an article in the New York Times, April 22, 2017, titled, Comey tried to shield the FBI from politics, then he shaped an election that Richmond provided information for. The FBI investigated all of this in a September 2021 report, and Richmond told them at the time that Comey never asked him to talk to the media during that period. They forensically analyzed Comey's phone during that investigation as well, and they found nothing. The FBI report about that article said the investigation has not yielded sufficient evidence to criminally charge any person, including Comey or Richmond, with making false statements or with the substantive offences under investigation, although Halligan may know better after 2 days. Importantly, in that article, Richmond was a named source for the story in the article in question about Hillary Clinton. So it's hard to prove that Comey authorized Richmond to be an anonymous source when he was a named source. Once again, the charges fail. However, there is one time that Comey did unambiguously authorize Richmond to leak.
All right.
It was May 2017, after Comey was fired. Comey used Richmond to leak his 2017 conversations with President Trump. That was the moment he was talking to Susan Collins about in that last clip I played before. But firstly, that was after Richmond was not someone else at the FBI, because he'd left the FBI in Feb 2017, and that leak was not about Clinton. It was about Trump. So it can't be the incident referred to in the indictment because he wasn't a person at the FBI at the time and it wasn't about Hillary Clinton. In other words, out of the 2 main scenarios, both of them are pretty much impossible for Comey to be found guilty.
Wow.
Before we even begin, dodgy indictment. Are there any other options? Because we don't know who person 3 is. Could they be someone else? Possibly.
Okay.
There could be other instances that mainstream lawyers haven't thought of, like James Baker, the FBI's general counsel, who leaked a denial the week before the election that Trump was involved with Alpha Bank, a pre-Russiagate conspiracy about Trump's involvement with Russia. The FBI actually shot down those rumors the week before the election, so they're helping Trump again. And Baker said he felt he had authorization to leak, but he said it didn't come directly from Comey. Special Counsel Durham investigated all this and elected not to prosecute anyone. But that could be the leak. Halligan could be pursuing that, but it denied Russiagate. It helped Trump win the election. It's not about Hillary Clinton. And he says that James Comey didn't authorize it anyway. So unlikely to be the charge. Maybe it is. I don't know. Everything people can think of doesn't make any sense. This is a bad indictment. We haven't even gotten to the other problems of the charges because there are other problems. Like, for instance, the statutes that James Comey's been charged with require proving he made false statements willfully. Good luck proving that he intentionally misled Ted Cruz when Ted Cruz's question is incredibly confusing and ambiguous. Go back and look at it again. we still don't know which person the question is referring to. 5 years later, it's very ambiguous. So how can we prove that James Comey knew exactly what he was asking and was misleading him down that exact road on purpose?
Yeah.
It's hard to prove. So in summary, this is a pathetic indictment, no matter what they're accusing him of. It's too late to change it now because we've passed the statute of limitations. So they're stuck with that indictment now. It's frozen in ice. And it's shit. No, none of these options have anything to do with Trump being stitched up in Russiagate. None of them. But there's still been a lot of vilifying Comey on Fox News, talking about, Russiagate this, Russiagate that.
Yep.
The person fighting most against this is actually Andy McCarthy, who's a Fox legal analyst, who I like because he, in my view, he's a fairly honest guy, right? Even though I don't agree with him politically. This is what he had to say.
First, give us your reaction to the indictment.
Well, I don't think there's a case. The things that Kash Patel that you just played that he was talking about that you and I have spoken about for years, Maria, the Russiagate stuff, I'm as big a critic of that probably as there is. I wrote a book about it. I think it was a disgrace, and history will remember it that way. This indictment is not about that, and it seems to be premised on something that's not true. The charge is that Comey authorized the leak, and he didn't authorize the leak.
That's very blunt. Well done, Andy. Well done. Okay, I did mention selective prosecution. I've got almost no time left, so I'm going to be very quick. Selective prosecution is when you single someone out for punishment when similarly situated individuals were not charged.
Okay.
He might have a case there. Vindictive prosecution, not so much. That's when you punish someone for exercising their procedural rights. In this case, I think selective prosecution is a much more likely claim that Comey would not be charged if he was someone else in the same position. Mm-hmm. And the evidence for that is overwhelmingly due to Trump's actions. First, Trump clearly fired Comey in 2017 out of spite. Remember, the reason he gave at the time was that Comey was too mean to Hillary Clinton. Sure. Clearly a pretext. Next, you got the fact that Trump sacked the U.S. attorney because he wasn't prosecuting Comey. He openly demanded Comey's prosecution afterwards, declaring, "What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell," he said. Maybe a little bit biased. He didn't even say what they were guilty of. He didn't care. He just wanted them prosecuted. Why? He said in the same post, "We can't delay any longer. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now." So in his view, justice is just them just getting punished. Clearly experiencing incredible anger, blaming Comey for actions that had nothing to do with him, and insisting that Comey must be prosecuted because of it. Then, when Comey was prosecuted, Trump took a jubilant lap of honor, once again suggesting massive bias from Trump. "Justice in America! One of the worst human beings this country's ever been exposed to is James Comey." We read this before. You get the message. And then he tweeted in all caps, "James Comey is a dirty cop. Make America great again." So clearly, Trump had a certain degree of animus against Comey. That was also indicated by the irrational way he prejudged the case. Whether you like corrupt James Comey or not, and I can't imagine too many people liking him, he lied! It's not a complex lie, it's a very simple but important one. There's no way he can explain his way out of it. James Dirty Cop Comey was the destroyer of lives. He knew exactly what he was saying, and that was a very serious and far-reaching lie for a very big price must be paid. President DJT! Now, Trump insisted this is not about revenge.
Is this more about justice or is it about revenge? It's about justice, really. It's not revenge. It's about justice. It's also about the fact that you can't let this go on. They are sick, radical left people, and they can't get away with it. And Comey was one of the people. He wasn't the biggest, but he's a dirty cop. He's always been a dirty cop. Everybody knew it. And it's, as far as the case is concerned, he gave an answer. It was a strong answer. He then verified it a couple of times because that was a very important answer. If he would have equivocated, if he would have been like a little bit less sure, That would have been very bad for him. So he gave an answer. The only problem is for him, he didn't think he'd be caught, and he got caught, Peter.
Firstly, that's all bullshit. As I said before, there was literally zero evidence of Comey lying in this case. But look, you make up your own mind if you think there is enough there to demonstrate that Comey would not have been prosecuted if Trump didn't hate him. I will say this, though. If Comey decides to go down this path of pursuing a selective prosecution, he will be able to get some serious discovery of all the behind-the-scenes maneuvering behind his charge, and that will be really interesting stuff. Or maybe, like he said, he wants to go straight to trial and beat the charge. We'll see. I tell you what, he will beat the charge. I promise you that. His charge ain't sticking. And, look, 9 points to finish off. You hear a lot of people saying Biden did this first. This is just Trump responding to Biden. I should address that.
That's what thing I said on the show last week.
That's right. That's indeed. Yes. I'm glad you watched. I
didn't watch all 40 minutes.
I need to address that. Pretty key differences between the charges against Trump and these charges. Let me go through the 9 points. 1, Trump publicly ordered that charges should be laid against Comey. Biden did not do that. 2, Trump sacked the U.S. attorney who didn't lay charges. Biden did not do that. 3, Halligan's subordinates, superiors, and predecessor, everyone she knew, all opposed her charges. That's not the case for Jack Smith and Trump's charges. 4, Trump appointed a patently unqualified attorney because he prioritized getting those charges laid. Biden did not do that. Trump got his own personal attorney to file the charges. Biden did not do that. Biden appointed an independent special counsel to look into it, a highly qualified one. Trump personally celebrated when Comey was charged several times. Biden did not do that for Trump. The charges against Trump followed years of investigation. In Comey's case, it was about a day, maybe 2. Under Biden, heaps of Democrats were prosecuted. Heaps. Not so many Republicans are being prosecuted under Trump at the moment. And under Trump, heaps of Republicans are being let off. Not so many Democrats being let off under Biden. So there are some important differences between Biden and Trump. Don't pretend they're the same thing. They're not. But most importantly, if there's one thing you're going to take away, this is a real bullshit indictment.
Not normal.
This is not normal, Lockie. Thank you so much for patiently listening to me rant.
Always my pleasure.
I will see you next week, Lockie.
Will do. See you soon.
I'll see you guys next week for hopefully the final Saturday special for a while. Till then, stay peppy.
Stay peppy.